Duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Ross Chastain will be first to finish in the Ally 500 at Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air. Man, this is a win in the cup race.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Mixing sports and a little bit of fun.
This is fun.
On your morning drive. This is Robby and Rexrode. With Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
And welcome into the Tuesday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Hope everybody is doing well. Robby and Rexrode presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Check out their new luxury listing at 6551 Brownlee at tjandersonhomes.com. Got a lot to get to on the program here today. Caroline Fenton will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into all things college football with her. Nick Suss from the Tennessean joining us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him, so looking forward to that. Nick Keyser, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am not going to complain that we have hockey back, but it was a long day yesterday.
Long day yesterday. Couple of games for the Nashville Predators down in Florida. Didn't go very well for them, but it is the preseason, so It doesn't really matter.
Took 88 minutes to score the first goal for them.
It did. It was a long time before they got the first goal yesterday.
88 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a while.
It's a while. We'll get into the Predators, a little bit of preseason Predators talk with Nick Keyser and Joe Rexrode coming up here in just a few minutes. Joe, you got your headphones figured out? How are we doing?
Yeah.
So we'll keep finagling headphones in here.
Yeah. Someone voluntarily takes the little thing off, the good headphones, puts the little thing, the little adapter on the bad headphones, plugs the bad headphones in, and says, here. So, I understand that the radio consultant told us to not talk about equipment, okay, on the show.
But you know what we're going to do?
But I got to know. I got to know why and who. Who and why. Who's opting for one-ear headphones and why?
It's a freakish thing.
It is.
Continues to be a problem on this program.
Yes.
Got to get to the bottom of it. A little Monday Night Football action last night, Joe. The Eagles win against Tampa Bay 25-11, the final score. And Cincinnati, who the Titans will see coming up on Sunday, they get their first win of the season, 19-16 last night against the Rams. Joe Burrow plays. There was some doubt heading into the game as to whether or not he would be out there, but he does play last night. It wasn't necessarily great from Burrow and the Bengals, but I will say in the second half their offense got moving a little bit. Jamar Chase, they lined him up in the backfield. They lined him up in the slot. They lined him up outside. They pretty much did anything they could do to get the ball in Jamar Chase's hands last night. Not a great game for T. Higgins. Had a couple drops in the game.
Yeah.
But Cincinnati wins, and they are officially – now at 1-2, so they avoid the 0-3 start and a battle of 1 and 2 teams coming up in Nissan Stadium on Sunday.
Yeah, they easily could have lost that game.
They could have.
I mean, the Rams kind of screwed some things up. The Bengals, especially in the first half, it was rough. That was not the Bengals offense I expected to see this year. But, yeah, it looked a little better in the second half. A lot of talk last night about Jamar Chase, like you said, all over the place, but especially in the slot. He's already been in the slot like way more, percentage-wise this year than any other time in his career. Makes sense. Try to move around, try to get some stuff going. Joe Burrow, that calf, doesn't sound great.
No.
Doesn't look great. I mean, he's, this is going to be one of those sitting duck possible situations for him Sunday. But at the same time, the Bengals' pass rush looks pretty good.
Yeah, it did.
So
I noticed that.
So, yeah.
Trey Hendrickson looked pretty good last night for Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and my first thought was, Andre Dillard, have fun, buddy. See if you can block Trey Hendrickson coming up on Sunday. He's not Myles Garrett, so that's the good news.
It's still going to –
but it still could be a problem.
It's still going to feel good to get away from Myles, right?
Yeah, you would think so. So, obviously, that's the challenge for the Titans. I mean, the Cincinnati, they still – obviously have some work to do. Their offense has not come close to reaching the level that we think it can get to. Burrow's still obviously dealing with the calf. So this is not a full-strength Cincinnati team, at least we don't think, heading into this game. But we talked yesterday about the Titans secondary, Joe, and the prospect of trying to face Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, even with an injured Joe Burrow right now, he's probably going to play at least on Sunday. And it's not an encouraging thought if I'm a Titans fan sitting here today with Cincinnati coming in, a team that they've struggled to beat ever since Joe Burrow has taken over as quarterback. Now, the one thing about that is, and you brought this up, they have played Cincinnati pretty well for the most part. I mean, his rookie year, they got their doors blown off in a game that they had no business losing that year.
Yeah, and they never should have lost it. Was it a blowout? Did it end up being a blowout?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was. I mean,
it was a huge upset, embarrassment, even if you lost by a point at that point to them.
Yeah, I mean, that was bad. Obviously, the playoff game we know. Last year, I thought they did a pretty decent job against that Bengals offense, but Cincinnati found a way. T. Higgins made one play at the end, and that was it, and Cincinnati wins. So they've not beaten Joe Burrow yet, and that's going to be the challenge coming up on Sunday at home for the Titans in this game. But the secondary, I mean, this is we talked a lot about them yesterday. This is a huge chance for some sort of response in this game. And, I was listening to Vrabel yesterday, Joe, and he basically – we don't see this happen a lot, at least, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. But they were talking about, that the Amari Cooper play where he just runs straight down the field.
I know exactly where you're going
here. Catches the touchdown, and Vrabel's just like, yep, Christian Fulton should have covered it. And we don't see Vrabel call out players all that much and specify what's going on. I found that interesting yesterday. He was like, yeah, it was Fulton's guy, and he didn't cover it.
Yeah, well, and that's one of those situations where it's one of the two. It's Fulton or Hooker. So it was putting the blame on him, but it was also removing the blame from Hooker in case anybody thought it was Hooker's fault. And Vrabel even specified it was supposed to be quarters coverage, which means, exactly what it says. The field, the deep part of the field split in quarters. So Fulton must have thought they were in cover two, and he was staying in the shallow zone and passing him off to Hooker, and so that's how Amari Cooper runs free. So I guess he didn't get the signal?
I guess.
But I'm with you. When he was specific about that, I was like, well, we don't see that too often. But he's been specific a couple times with Christian Fulton calling him out.
Yes, and it was a bad day for Fulton on Sunday. Speaking of Christian Fulton, Nick Suss, who we're going to have on the show at 8 o'clock, he put this stat out there yesterday. It says, this was on Twitter, Titan stat of the day, Christian Fulton's passer rating against when targeted this year is 158.3. And if you've followed football for a long time, that's a perfect passer rating. Quarterbacks are 7 of 8 for 165 yards and a touchdown throwing against Christian Fulton this year. This from your favorite website, Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, that's like the Marcus Mariota rookie game, right? There is one incompletion, so
he did
like to point that out.
Yep.
There has been one incompletion, but yeah, good stat by Nick. And see, that's a PFF stat that I'm fine with. I'm fine with counting up completions and things like that. That's totally fine. That's valuable information. It's the grading of offensive linemen and things like that that I find. It's just the grading of players. Every week it's hilarious. In fact, the Titans, now that you mentioned PFF, I need to find the Titans grades because I saw them, like offensive grades. And it's like,
did anybody have more than like a
I think
20?
like Chris Moore had a super high grade. Well, he made one great play.
Yep.
And then I don't know what else did he do. Is that careful analysis of his route running and his blocking?
Right.
I don't know. But it was like 3 receivers, like Aaron Brewer and somebody else. It's like, okay, sure thing. But counting up stuff like that is valuable.
Sure.
So PFF has a role in the world.
They do. They have a role in the world, and good to see. I mean, I guess if you're Christian Fulton, there's nowhere to go but up after last week. So hopefully everything's healthy. I mean, that's the other thing. Doesn't feel like anybody got hurt last week in the game, so we'll see what the injury report looks like on Wednesday. And what that means. It is, from a pass rush standpoint on Sunday, like Burrow not being able to move. Like he's, nobody's going to confuse him from Michael Vick back there, but he has been able to move around and at least get himself out of trouble in his career. And last night, I mean, he just really couldn't move all that much. How much better is that going to be on Sunday? Is he just basically going to be a sitting duck in the pocket? And if he is, what does that mean for the Titans pass rush and their ability to affect the quarterback? By the way, Burrow took an absolute shot last night from Aaron Donald, and I thought for a second that he was maybe not going to be getting up after that one.
Yeah. No, and Donald even did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is take your weight away, because that, in the old days, that's also, here comes 280 pounds right on top of you, Joe. But still, the shot itself was, and you could tell he felt it. But he's toughing it out. That was a huge win for them.
David in Arkansas on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, Robbie, you say the Bengals offense isn't up to par yet. I foresee their offense to look like a high-powered, unstoppable offense. The Titans make everyone look good, unfortunately. Watson was struggling going into the Titans game, and he looked like the Watson of old. This is from David in Arkansas, and it's hard to argue with that. He did.
Yeah, if we're setting the bar for offensive struggles at Titans, then they're the Bengals looking all right.
Yes, they are. And this is going to be a challenge for the defense coming up. The Jamar Chase part of this is interesting because, Jamar Chase has had plenty of success against the Titans. Now, he didn't play in that game last year against the Titans at Nissan Stadium, but he'll be available coming up on Sunday. T. Higgins was the guy that really hurt him last year, but them moving around Chase as much as they have so far this year, when I saw him lined up in the backfield last night, I was like, oh, so they're trying to find any way possible to get him the ball. So obviously a guy you got to pay attention to if you're the Titans, and I'm interested to see on Sunday, do they use him more in the slot? Do they move him back to the outside? He's been matched up against Christian Fulton before in the playoff game. Do you do that again based on the way Fulton's played so far this year? Going to be interesting to see how Zach Taylor and the Bengals use Jamar Chase on Sunday.
Yeah, and the Titans, of course, talking about stopping the run. They do that. Although, 78 yards for the Browns, not bad, really, especially against the Titans. But Joe Mixon, he had probably their best offensive play last night.
Yeah.
That touchdown run. He is a challenge. So they've got the ability. The Bengals have, I think, still Super Bowl ability, Super Bowl potential. Not playing like it right now, but as pointed out right there, Deshaun Watson just got right against you.
He did.
So you don't want to let these guys get right against you, because if these guys are right, then they're really good, way better than we've seen so far.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're off and running on Robby and Rexrode. Throwing this question out there today, who should be more worried right now, the Tennessee Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars? Both off to rough starts. Who should be more worried? We'll get into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
A tribute to Ronnie Millsap. The final Nashville show, October 3rd at Bridgestone Arena. A tribute to Ronnie Millsap, featuring performances by Kelly Clarkson, Little Big Town, Parker McCullum, Scotty McCreery, Justin Moore, Tracy Lawrence, and more than 30 guest artists. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster. A tribute to Ronnie Millsap, the final Nashville show. One night only, October 3rd, Bridgestone Arena. Produced by Outback Presents.
To know what makes Genesis Diamonds so special, you have to understand its origin. Back when owner Boaz Ramon used to sell diamonds only to jewelry stores.
I was selling to more than 700 jewelry stores. I didn't like what I saw.
What he saw in retail stores was grossly inflated prices, limited selection, pricing games, and a sales process that put the customer at a disadvantage, and it motivated this wholesaler to start his own retail revolution.
My passion was to build a place where the customer is going to be very informed. We're not going to hide any information from him. We're not going to have to get diamonds from other people. We're not going to mark up our prices to mark them down.
So Genesis was born. No middleman markups, no commission salespeople, industry-leading warranties, 30 times the selection, a no-holds-barred diamond education that empowers the customer, and a refreshing, relaxed, no-pressure atmosphere.
We created a place where the consumer is the king.
Come and get the royal treatment today. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
In 1972, a Nashville family business story began when Bill and Beverly Finley founded Volunteer Hose and Gasket. 3 generations have grown the business into the local industry leader, supplying just about anything to anybody, from the largest of contractors to your neighbor that mows his own yard. Over 1 million items in stock: belts, belting accessories, gaskets, gauges, hose fittings, hydraulics, industrial hoses, lubricants, sealing products, tubing, fire protection, and more. All at volunteerhose.net. If Volunteer Hose and Gasket doesn't have it, then you probably don't need it. Call them at 615-242-0461.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new fall arrivals from TaylorMade, Callaway, and Titleist. Come by and test drive the new TaylorMade P790 irons, the new Callaway Apex Pro iron sets, and the new Titleist T-Series irons. While you're there, get a free custom fitting on the new arrivals and more. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is your headquarters for all the latest golf gear from all the top manufacturers. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee. Shop us in store or online at edwinwattsgolf.com.
Rise and shine, honey. We don't want to miss our flight.
Our flight is in 7 hours. And we have TSA PreCheck with our Navy Federal flagship credit card.
TSA PreCheck? Getting my bugle through security will be so much easier now.
Learn how you can earn up to 3 times points on travel with the flagship credit card at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Insured by NCUA.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah. And like us on Facebook, too.
Good morning.
You're locked into Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty.
I had the radio on. I'm listening to
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And, you know, when you gathered the guys around, what was your primary message that you wanted them to take away?
Well, that this is, you know, when you play like that, you're gonna lose. You're gonna get beat. So we have to understand that. We have to realize why it is, you know, that we lost, and also realize that you can define your culture by what you look like when things aren't great, when things don't go well. And yesterday they didn't go very well, and we'll find out, you know, what kind of football team we have this week, and what kind of individuals, what type of people we have here, which I believe in, and who we are. So, you know, that was my message. It was, you know, wouldn't have a whole lot to say, give them all credit, get back to work, and don't think that anybody did enough to help us win.
That was Mike Vrabel yesterday at his press conference. Flushing the Browns game behind, says going to find out a lot about the football team this week to how they respond to an ugly outing on Sunday. Obviously a tough matchup coming up against the Bengals. We'll have all week to look specifically at that matchup. But, Joe, my question of the day today is this. Who should be more worried right now, the Tennessee Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars? Both at 1-2, both with ugly performances on Sunday. Titans get hammered by the Browns. The Jags at home get smoked by the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud looked really good. I mean, they let a fullback return a kickoff for a touchdown, which was interesting to watch on Sunday, too. Wasn't good.
That was an amazing play.
It really was. I mean, it was a great play by that guy. Just like Herschel Walker out there. It was great. But both teams at 1-2, offenses to different degrees, looking sputtering so far. I mean, you look at Jacksonville, they've lost to Kansas City, they've lost to Houston, they beat Indianapolis week 1, so they've taken down the Colts. That's their win so far this year. Titans losing to the Saints, beating the Chargers, and now losing to the Browns. So, Joe, as we sit here today, 3 weeks in, based on everything we know about both teams to this point, who do you think should be more worried right now, the Titans or the Jags?
I'd say the Titans. But one common theme, you know, there's a lot of offensive line complaining in Jacksonville
there
too, and you know that was one of the concerns. That was one of the counters to all the wild Jacksonville hype. The offensive line. I mean, obviously, then you let C.J. Stroud just go off on you. So how good is that defense? But I still believe, you know, Trevor. I mean, they have a better quarterback situation than the Titans. I don't think there's some huge gap. They have a better – their offense still, to me, has more upside than the Titans' offense does. And that's basically why I'm going to say the Titans should be more worried. I mean, because the Titans, you know, I think the Jaguars' offensive line can be serviceable. I'm not sure the Titans' offensive line can be serviceable. You know, so now that there's the difference of the first place and the second place schedule for sure. I just think this is more out of character for the Jaguars right now. Like, you know, that kick return, that's terrible, but it's also like a weird random play. And I think they're out of character. I think the Titans right now are basically everybody's worst fears in this last game. It's a little bit more like, well, this is what people were talking about when they said, you didn't invest in the offensive line and, you didn't do enough, and now look at how bad it is. So I would go toward the Titans.
I probably would too. However, I mean, it is, I think, a little closer than Titans fans would realize from this standpoint. Like, I'm looking at Jacksonville's schedule, and they're getting ready to trot overseas for the next 2 weeks. So they're going to be in London for 2 weeks. They got the Falcons coming up, who can run the ball really well. I mean, I've watched firsthand the Falcons this year run the ball, and they look really good. Now, they didn't play well against Detroit on Sunday, but we'll see what that looks like in response. And then they got Buffalo the week after that overseas as well. And Buffalo, outside of the Jets game, has just smoked everybody that's come across their path so far. So that's obviously a tough matchup for the Jags there. The Colts are after that. I mean, I don't know if I'm a Colts believer yet, but they certainly look better than I thought they would to this point in the year. They looked good against Jacksonville in the first game they played already too, and it's the Saints, the Steelers, and the 49ers. I'm just saying, like, there are some interesting matchups for Jacksonville coming up that I'm really interested to see how they respond. Like Atlanta, I don't know that Atlanta's a good team. Atlanta's not bad.
They're not bad.
They're better than Houston, and they just struggled with Houston on Sunday. So really, it's about, like, the offense. Can the offense for Jacksonville get things moving in the right direction? Like, even Kansas City, like, the defense for Jacksonville played pretty well in that game. You held that offense to 17 points. They just couldn't get anything going offensively. So this is 2 weeks in a row where the Jags offense has basically looked like they were stuck in the mud. And, is that a trend? Is that just new pieces in the offense trying to get things figured out, the offensive line, all those things? I don't know. I'm just saying the offense for Jacksonville has been pretty disappointing. Now, it wasn't as bad as the Titans offense on Sunday. I'm just saying it's been 2 weeks in a row where the Jags offense has looked no good.
I mean, they had to go well into the seventh quarter of football in their own stadium before scoring a touchdown in their own stadium.
Yeah.
They had to go well into the third quarter to score a freaking touchdown against the Texans. So they've got issues. And, yeah, that's it. Look, I mean, I basically watched the whole Chiefs game. I haven't watched, obviously I haven't watched enough of them. It's hard to make the comparison when you've watched one team very closely and one not. But basically I'm kind of leaning on, I have to think that the players they have on paper are going to figure it out. And with the Titans, what did we say going in? How good is Andre Dillard? What about Brewer for Jones at center? What about Brunskill? Two backups in there. And, Skoronski, does Skoronski get back this week? That is something to keep in mind. But I don't know. I just don't know how much better it can get. I think the Jags can get a lot better.
Well, Weston Clarksville, to that point, says, Titans should be worried. I don't see us fixing that offensive line. Our saving grace is getting Skoronski back, and he's a rookie. That's from Weston Clarksville on the text line. I mean, first off, whenever he's back will be a welcome day for the Titans. They need him back, whether that's going to be at guard or that's going to be at tackle. And I still think it's probably going to be at guard for now. I do wonder, though, like if you get out there Sunday and Trey Hendrickson just goes nuts in that game and he ends up with 2.5 sacks and he's throwing Andre Dillard around like a rag doll out there. Like, at what point, if you're Vrabel, do you look around and say, all right, we got to try something? Like, we got to try something else, whether that's Radens out there until Petit Frere gets back, whether it is Skoronski moving to left. I don't know what it would be. I don't know specifically what it'll be. I don't know that any of it's a great option, but I do wonder, like, is there something on Sunday, like if Hendrickson goes out there and plays really well, does Vrabel look at Dillard and say, yeah, we just can't do this? Like, we can't continue to trot him out there and play him as a starting left tackle in this league.
You think back to last year, and I understand the options were limited, but they kept trotting out Daly every week.
They did until they didn't, and Dylan Radens got put out there at left tackle in the Chargers game.
That was so long.
It was long, but they eventually changed it, and then, of course, he got hurt, and you had to go right back to Daly.
Yeah. It just that probably could have been done earlier. Well, and again, I don't know. That's the thing. Your option at that point was Radens, who was struggling to be capable of being on the field, and that's your choice. This year, I do think the choices are better, so maybe it will be earlier. if it needs to happen. I mean, I took Vrabel's answer yesterday as, they're not going to change things this week. When you do make that change, it's a big deal because even though it's discount rate for a left tackle in this league, you did sign Dillard to a significant deal. Yes, a deal, that you can get out of after this year. But still, like once you do that, you're basically saying, yeah, that was a failed experiment. I mean, and then again, like, what is the move? Is it Skoronski? Is it Petit Frere, Radens? I mean, at least there's 3 options there that you could do. And then you have to ask what that does to left guard, which is still, very important. So I do think that, you can also pull a guy on a particular day, and you can always go back to the guy too. It's not like you have to commit to being done with this guy as a starter. I mean, it'll feel that way if they do it, but yeah, like in the heat of the moment, I mean, it happens sometimes in other positions, right? I mean, there are times that Vrabel will switch up a receiver performance-wise, defensive back performance-wise. So offensive line's different. Continuity, having the same 5 guys, all that stuff. But I think it's worth thinking about.
I think it's worth thinking about too. And, I mean, that's the one thing that you're looking at the offense in particular right now. Like, it's hard for me. I know I saw some people freaking out about the Titans' run game yesterday on Twitter, and I get it. They just ran for 26 yards in an NFL game, so wasn't good on Sunday. But it's still that to me still comes down to the line, right? I mean, I just watching the Robbie Stanley eye test this year. Derrick Henry still looks pretty good to me. Like he still looks like he's going to be a good back for the Titans this year. And I like what I've seen from Spears. So I still feel fine about the running back specifically for the Titans. But that was concerning to me Sunday is how much the offensive line got their butts kicked in the running game too. Like they've been a pretty good run blocking line. Pass blocking concerns aside for this group so far this year, they've been able to run the ball. And the fact that they just got absolutely destroyed up front in the run blocking game on Sunday too was concerning to me. And what does that mean moving forward? I don't know. But if you can't run the ball in this offense, you have no chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But 2 out of 3 games, it's looked pretty good. So are the Browns going to stand out? I mean, driving out of Cleveland yesterday, there was a lot of – this is the best – the caller called in, the best Browns defense since 1986. Everybody, yeah. I mean, so is that –
can't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, after that performance, I get it. Is that gonna be the takeaway in a few weeks? The Browns are just so freaking good. I know that this has got to be a week where the Titans are challenging themselves until you have to get back to, to run blocking because you're right. This offense has 0 chance if you can't make a defense be honest with your run game.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is half off a $50 gift card for Monell's. Bringing people together over a home-cooked meal is what Monell's is all about. Enjoy Monell's Southern comforts like their world-famous skillet fried chicken while spending time with family and new friends for half the price while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Continuing the conversation on the Titans coming up next, who should be more worried right now, the Titans or Jacksonville? Your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
He breaks down every game.
The players are still going to be fine.
And knows the ins and outs of the two-tone blue.
They deal with their own position coaches.
He is ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport.
It's clear what he's doing.
TD joins every Monday at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast.
I think that's really cool how he could show both sides.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Half of me wants a cold.
Hey Nashville, Thomas Rhett here. My Home Team Tour 23 is on sale now.
Thomas Rhett, Home Team Tour 23 with special guests Cole Swindell and Nate Smith. This Friday, Bridgestone Arena. On sale now.
Get your tickets at livenation.com and come party with us.
At Mercedes-Benz of Music City, a healthy and productive culture takes a day-to-day discipline
Here's Sam Cavett, General Manager, with a few thoughts.
Mercedes-Benz has its standard, and we have Dream Motor Group standards. They're definitely on the same level, but I feel like we challenge ourselves at least as much as Mercedes-Benz challenges us. It's a genuine motivation to take care of customers, and we see it in the customer reviews.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Hey home buyers, TJ Anderson here with More Great Homes. Located just west of Nashville in the tranquil setting of Kingston Springs Ranchettes neighborhood, 1617 Wildlife Trail offers 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a 2-car garage, and a 1-year builder warranty, all for under $450,000. Contact my team today at tjandersonhomes.com for more info. Want your home listing to be seen and heard by home buyers? Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why we are referred by clients so often. TJ Anderson Homes at Benchmark Realty, office number 615-432-2919.
Isn't that aroma just heavenly?
What's with the whispering?
Inside this grill is the secret to winning game days.
Eckrich smoked sausage, crafted with a perfect medley of spices for a truly rich, savory taste. So easy to prepare, too. Now hand me one of those buns.
Whoa, keep your voice down.
Marty, you're still whispering? Secret's out, buddy. Eckrich.com has dozens of simple, mouth-watering recipes for everyone to win game days this season.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver.
I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready.
One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day 1 of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We are live from our 102.5 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Who should be more worried about their start to the season? Is it the Titans or is it Jacksonville? Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Got somebody that says, that's easy. It's Tennessee should be very worried because they suck bad. I wish the season was over already. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
Get right to the point.
They should be worried because they suck.
Scrap the season.
The season's done.
Scrap the franchise.
I like
Scrap
it.
the season. Well, this is the week to say such things. I get it. The afterglow of that Cleveland performance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I get it.
Dustin from Hopkinsville on the text line says, I've been thinking, seeing what this O-line is, if I'm Tannehill, I want out now. Trade me. I don't want to almost definitely injure myself with this team on a year I need my body healthy for possibly my last contract for another team. This is from Dustin from Hopkinsville on the text line. Get me out. Let's just get this. Let's prevent this injury before it ever happens.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of talk about my guy Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And the 0-3 Minnesota Vikings and the New York Jets and just the horrific quarterbacking of Zach Wilson to go with that good team, really good team. I think maybe really good. Could be really good if you had competent quarterbacking, right?
I think so.
They have all the pieces.
I agree.
So what if the Titans circle the drain? What if the Titans get to 1-5 after London?
Well, you get to 1-5.
If I'm Ryan Tannehill's agent, I'm like, hey, Yeah.
I would
New
too.
New York sounds pretty good.
Now, the thing with that is, if they're 1-5 by the time London comes around, like how well will Tannehill have played at that point? Like, we already got one game where he was very bad, a game again on Sunday where I don't think Tannehill was the problem, but I mean, if you just look at the numbers, he's 13 of 25 for 104 yards. Like, how much does what would that mean for Tannehill if they're 1-5? My guess is it probably would mean that he hasn't performed very well.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, but I also think that take away week 1, most of the performance will probably have to do with not being able to stand in the pocket and do anything. I mean, I think there'd be more interest in a Cousins. Cousins is still, producing, putting up big numbers and stuff like that.
Right.
I think he's a little better than Ryan Tannehill at this point, but I think it's close.
Yeah, I think so too. It's an interesting thought, because number one, Minnesota's 0-3. So are they? I guess how much longer are they? Because they do have a second-year head coach. They have Justin Jefferson on their team, and they have a veteran quarterback that wants to win now. Now, having said that, their actions in the offseason kind of signaled a little bit of rebuild. I mean, they let Dalvin Cook walk out the door. Their defense isn't very good, which we've seen so far this year.
But then they go get another running back.
And then they go get Cam Akers. Now, I don't know how good he's going to be for them. But, it's kind of weird. Like, they've been half 1 foot in, 1 foot out with their approach. Now they're 0-3. So do they wave the white flag at any point? And if so, what does that mean for Cousins? And also, the Jets. The Jets have been steadfast in their approach of, we're not going to get anybody. It's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's our guy. And then you go out and you watch Zach Wilson play every week, and you're like, well, at some point with that roster, doesn't that have to change? If I'm Garrett Wilson right now, behind closed doors, I'm looking around and I'm saying, hey, guys, y'all want to go try to get me some help at some point? I mean, I agree. Every other part of that team is built to win. And look, Rodgers got hurt. And they put all their eggs in the Rodgers basket. I get it. But Wilson is bad. Man, he's bad.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything with him. You're at home. You're at home, and I know the Patriots aren't great, but you're at home. You hold the Patriots 15 points.
Yeah,
and you lose. It's just it's not. It's just you can't do it. So, with both Cousins and Tannehill, you're talking about obviously you have to move some things around, but you're talking about guys with expiring contracts at the end of the year. You go right back to Rodgers.
Yeah.
But you might give one of those guys a chance at a magical run.
You might.
So I've now created the trade Ryan Tannehill in New York scenario.
You have.
You're welcome, everybody.
James on the text line says, the Titans are who they said we were. Or Jacksonville, the Titans are who they said we were. The hype is all around Jacksonville, and they don't look like it at all. So Jacksonville with more to worry about, according to James. We do have a vote for Jacksonville finally on the text line. Way to go, James.
Well, I guess if you're judging the question based on preseason hype, then they're more disappointing for sure. Yeah. They are more disappointing. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but that's not the question. The question is who's more concerned moving forward.
Right. Ty says the Titans lost 41-7 to Buffalo last year before winning 7 of 8. We are just fine. This is from Ty on the text line.
Your first sentence is absolutely accurate and is good perspective. But I don't know that your second sentence is true. It may not be true. Sometimes teams are bad. Sometimes teams that play bad are bad.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our buddy Mark in Nashville. Mark, good morning, buddy. How we doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Robby? How you doing, Joe?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm sitting here listening to you and Robby. Y'all right about everything. But, Joe, I told y'all before the season started, defense is going to be the glue for the Titans. They were going to struggle offensively, and really the defense doesn't really look that great. Maybe they was on the field too long Sunday against Cleveland. Watson finally came around and showed his old Deshaun Watson again. But I think with the Jaguars, have you ever known history with Doug Peterson? After he has a good year, the next year or two he struggles like this and stuff. I think both of them are struggling bad, and they may be both 1-5 in that division. Because I had picked Jacksonville to win that division by 2 games. But before I go, Joe, y'all were right about Zach Wilson. They need to go on and just cut him. They're going to lose that locker room if they don't do anything with him, man. I mean, he's just not an NFL quarterback. He's just a bust. I mean, I hate to say it, but he's just a bust. But I'll be calling you tomorrow, Joe. Get you fired up, man, so you can do your thing. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah, get ready for that.
All right, man.
Hey, Rob, y'all have a good day, man.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, I mean, it's the Jacksonville part of this is it like I expect them to probably turn things around a little bit offensively on Sunday. Like Atlanta, I think Atlanta has improved on the defensive side of the ball. They're still not a great defensive team. So if Jacksonville waltzes out there on Sunday,
nor is Houston.
Houston. That's what I'm saying though. Like if they waltz out there again on Sunday, and for the third week in a row they can't figure anything out offensively, then I think the red flags start to go up a little bit with Jacksonville, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? Like you played a Houston team that's got a first-year head coach and the roster is terrible, and you mustered up 17 points, got destroyed by a rookie quarterback in that game, and then the Kansas City game is what it is. Like Chris Jones was back, and that Kansas City's defense looks pretty good so far this year. So maybe that's just a really good defense that you run into. If you go out there for the third week in a row, if you're the Jags, and you just look bad offensively, like that's pretty concerning to me. If I'm Jacksonville on Sunday, that's a big game for them on Sunday to try to get things rolling the right way.
Yeah. God, that's
two
mutes for me, and I know.
Number 2.
Dang it! I've been so good.
You have
in the last years, right? Kind of
plural.
Well, yearish.
Okay.
Josh in Kentucky says Cousins and Tannehill are miles apart. I've seen plenty of both. I know Cousins could win a Super Bowl on the right team. Tannehill will never win a Super Bowl, period. I don't think they're miles apart. I think Cousins is better.
That's true.
I would take Cousins. But I think it's close. Now, both of them. I mean, actually, to me, Tannehill is a little bit better option when you don't have protection. He can move some, unlike Cousins. But Cousins is good. I'd love to see Cousins with that opportunity with the Jets. I think it could be pretty good.
Well, Cousins is certainly not the reason that they're 0-3 right now. I mean, just go look at his numbers. He's been pretty good. Now,
yeah, they have zero. They have the worst running game in the NFL, and they have a terrible defense.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian Flores is not – it's his first year, but they're very lacking in defensive personnel.
They are. I mean, it's just bad right now. So, I mean, there are Tannehill – whether he's in the discussion or whether he's not, there are the Jets part of this makes it interesting because, I mean, too much more of this, you're going to be out of the race. So, the Jets are going to have to make a decision pretty soon if they want to address the quarterback spot. If you're Minnesota and you're Kevin O'Connell in year 2, at 0-3, are you ready to start considering moving on from Kirk Cousins, or is it too early at that point? I don't know.
Well, I'm sure in the coaches and players, they would think it's ridiculously early. But
there's Caleb Williams floating around out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who the heck is their backup?
For the Vikings?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know.
I mean, I know Kellen Mond was supposed to take over the job. That didn't work out. But if your backup's pretty bad, which most teams it is.
Yes.
Yeah. You could get into the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. I mean, there's going to be a surprise team or two that gets into that race. So maybe the
Nick
Vikings
Mullins
are that team.
is their backup.
Okay. Yep.
I think he could qualify.
Yeah, he could lose some games for you.
He could. 615-737-1025. Lots more of your thoughts to get to on the Titans. We'll do that as well. Coming up next, 615-737-1025, our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll also get into a little bit of Nashville Predators training camp talk coming up next as well. Caroline Fenton coming up at 7 o'clock talking college football. All that ahead. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robby and Rexrode 6 to 9.
Big time performance, best part of the team.
Chase McCabe 9 to 11.
An unrestricted free agent.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace 11 to 2.
Got the big contract.
The Velvet Touch.
Talk about Hall of Famers. And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
Kept going for it.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. It's about to start getting cooler, and it's time to start thinking about your heating system. You do not want to experience breakdowns when that first temperature drop happens, so it's time to get your heating tune-up taken care of. Luckily, happy half-off month at Hiller. Tune-ups are 50% off. This month, Hiller is making it easier than ever to tackle necessary home replacements by giving you 50% off select add-on items. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, Call the Happy Face truck today.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Oh, Charlie's, that's where you'll find me. That southern flavor got me saying, hey, y'all. Yum, yum, have some fun, share with the ones you love. Don't you wanna roll?
At O'Charlie's, we thought you'd enjoy a little country rock and rolls. The warm, buttery, delicious kind. Served free with every meal. O'Charlie's. Oh, that's good.
Yum, yum, have some fun, Charlie's. Born in Nashville and it shows.
Vanderbilt Commodore fans, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, along with 94.9 The Fan, is your new home for broadcast of games and the Commodore Hour on Monday evenings. Catch all the action for football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball all season long. Go Doors!
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
You're locked into Robby and Rexrode.
Every morning, first thing.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Tuesday morning. Caroline Fenton joining us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into some college football talk with her, so looking forward to that. We could get back into the Mike Vrabel questions the media should be asking if you wanted to, Joe.
Oh, we got some?
Jared from Spring Hill says, Joe, you've got to start asking Vrabel, hey, Mike, did you coach better this week compared to last week? Start front-loading his excuses, then ask, what did you do better this week as a coach, if that's all it is? Milk that cow. This is from Jared from Spring Hill on the text line.
Okay, that makes my brain hurt a little bit. What? Is this like a conundrum? Is this like a brain teaser?
I guess so.
So like
just
ask him
get
like,
in front of the coach better, play better.
So is this like get him on the field right before the game on Sunday and yell at him? How's your coaching this week, Vrabes?
Yeah.
Show me.
Josh in
Good
Kentucky says, man, y'all got some Titan shaded glasses on if you think Tannehill is anything close to Cousins. Cousins is putting up MVP-type numbers. Tannehill can barely throw for 150 yards. I've been watching Tannehill since his rookie year in Miami. He's always been good enough, but not great. Cousins has been a whole lot better than just good enough.
Again, I'm a Cousins fan.
You are.
So, I mean,
I became a Cousins fan after the quarterback documentary.
Yeah, that's like two different things. Personally, like Cousins and all that, but objectively watching his game, he's a very good quarterback.
He's a good player.
I just disagree with that assessment, Josh. I mean, you're going to sit here and talk about their numbers. I mean, Ryan Tannehill on Sunday, he could have made some more plays, I'm sure. He could have made some different decisions. He could have not taken a couple sacks. But, like, the fact that he threw for anything is a freaking almost miracle, given the way that game was going. It's not the same thing. Someone earlier was like, Tannehill's one-loss record is better. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's close, guys. I mean, if these guys have been in the league a long time, I don't see how anybody who's actually watched them a fair amount would not think that they're close. They're in the same tier. They're comparable.
The whole conversation around Kirk Cousins' entire career has been, yeah, pretty good. You can't win a Super Bowl with it. Like, that's what people say about him and have said about him for 7 years at this point.
Yeah. Now in both of their cases, I think, I saw Jimmy Garoppolo miss a throw that would have won it, so it's on him. He missed the throw. But I saw Jimmy Garoppolo get within a whisker of winning a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill are good enough to win a Super Bowl in the right situation. If Jimmy G can do what he did, and again, we can go through Brad Johnson and whatever, go way back. Yeah, he could. But neither of them are the driving force carrying a team to a Super Bowl championship.
Clint in Clarksville on the text line says, when do you think the Titans' ticket sales will plummet and home games get scarce of people with the awful product that they're putting on the field? This is from Clint from Clarksville on the text line.
I'd say this is a big week.
It is.
You get to 2-2 and beat the Bengals, you're like, okay. Just like the text earlier, everything's fine. That's exactly the takeaway if you get to 2-2. You get to 1-3, and now you're going to Indy, and then you're going to London to play the Ravens. I mean, if it gets to 1-5, then I think you're going to see some. You're going to have plenty of seats. You can move down a little bit if you're in Nissan Stadium for the next game, which I think would be what, Atlanta?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, and people may disagree with me on this, and that's why I know Baltimore has beaten Cincinnati this year. I still believe like the toughest test for the Titans in the next 3 weeks is Sunday. It's going to be Joe Burrow and that offense, and can the defense find a way to limit that? I know that offense hasn't been good so far this year, but they did look like they were figuring some things out last night in the second half. Like Indy, they've been better than I thought they would be. I still am not convinced that Indy is like some great team out there. Baltimore is good. I think Baltimore's a good team. That game's in London. What is that going to mean for what that looks like? I don't know. Like I still believe, if you're asking me personally, Sunday is their biggest test in the next 3. So, I mean, they could lose Sunday, be 1-3, and still have a chance to get to 3-3 by that bye week. We've talked about that since the schedule came out. Like if you could find a way to get to 3-3 by the time the bye week comes around, and you look at the schedule beyond that, then you're going to give yourself a chance if you're the Titans. Like that still to me is very much in play for the Titans this week.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get it done this week, all is not lost. But your season's on the line-ish going to Indy
for sure,
because it's also a bigger game anyway. You know, it's a division game, it's a rival, and that's one of those where you get that. Yeah, look, even at 2-4, the Titans, because of the rest of the schedule, like they would not be dead. 3-3 is what you want. 3-3 is what you're looking for. 2-4, you're still breathing. 1-5, that's where then you have 1-5 and you get to stew on 1-5
it's not
for
good.
An extra week. That's where interesting conversations could happen, and a lot of people are going to bail on going to the games.
Well, yeah, I mean, there comes a point where there's a hole that's too big to dig yourself out of, especially with this offense and what we've seen from them to this point. And the schedule certainly gets better in the second half of the season. Now, having said that, the Steelers game right now would terrify me if I'm a Titans fan. Number one, because it's on the road, and number two is because somebody's going to have to block T.J. Watt. And based on what I saw Sunday, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. You have Miami
you got those
on
Dolphins.
the schedule coming up too. Like it's not like it's just a total cakewalk.
No.
In the second half of the season, it is. You do have the Texans twice. You got the Colts again. You got the Panthers who aren't very good. You got the Bucks. I mean, there are some games that you could win on the second half of that schedule. Although right now, the idea of them trying to cover like Mike Evans down the field, okay, I don't know if they're going to do that.
Like all those teams, as they talk about late in the season, they're like, oh, well,
got Titans.
Got the Titans.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Can you imagine? Like the Dolphins game, like just the difference in the way these teams play football right now, the Dolphins and the Titans.
Right. Again, that's part of the problem here is losing is one thing. Also, being unwatchable is another thing. Are the Dolphins the best team in the NFL?
I mean, they just put up 70 points. I don't know how you could. I mean, I think there are 3 teams left that are 3-0. The 49ers are 3-0, the Eagles are 3-0, and the Dolphins. I mean, look, I believe the Eagles and 49ers are both very, very good. But the Dolphins, they just put up 70 points, man. I got to give it to them.
I love them. I love these Dolphins maybe more than I love the Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, Dan Marino Dolphins. That's
a bold statement.
I know. But these guys are fun.
You know what the most incredible part about the 70-point performance on Sunday was? Jalen Waddle didn't play. Like, he wasn't out there. So they were without Jalen Waddle, and they put up 70 points anyway. They ran for 300 yards.
Whoever gets the ball, just there's a whole bunch of field. Run. Go to the end zone.
Tyreek Hill did his thing, which he's going to do every week, but they put up 70 points, and they didn't have Jalen Waddle.
I mean, the two backs had how many combined yards rushing
like
and receiving?
Yeah. Like, it was crazy. It was just nuts, the numbers that they put up. So, yes, I would give them right now the title of best team in the NFL.
I'm still going Niners, but, yeah, it's close.
It's hard to argue. Yep, absolutely.
Complete team.
The Preds yesterday, Joe, not going very well in the 2 preseason games. As Nick Keyser mentioned earlier,
Scrap the season.
88 minutes for the Predators to get on the board yesterday. In all seriousness, the final score of preseason hockey, I could not care less about. I mean, you have half of both teams yesterday are featuring players that are not going to play in the season for the Predators, so it doesn't mean a whole lot for me. But it is interesting. Like, they're back at home tomorrow. I think Tampa's coming into town. And then, we're about a week and a half, 2 weeks away from the season getting rolling here. So it's going to come pretty quickly for the Predators. I was out there at camp the other day. Some guys that are going to be really interesting to watch. Like, the more I think about it, Joe, with a new coaching staff coming in, with the young talent that we think that they have building forward, like Kimmel is going to be interesting to watch. This is a huge year in my opinion for Tomasino. Like, I was watching him pretty closely the other day. He looks good out there, but like from a production standpoint, you need to start to see it this year. And we talked about him last year. He probably should have made the team out of camp. We talked about that all year. He went down to Milwaukee. I thought he was okay when he came back up. This is a big year for him. Like, you need to start to see that production lean towards what we think it can be with him.
No doubt. And I mean, he's definitely going to get the opportunity, right?
I think so.
This is set up for him to absolutely have the opportunity, and he's got to run with it for sure. He's one of those key guys. Glass, a key guy. Yep. Very encouraging season, but there's still another level or two he's got to reach to adequately fill the role that he's destined to have on this team. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys who have some opportunity, I think, this year. That Evangelista, very excited to watch him play, but it's a lot of guys like that. Nick Keyser, did you have a prevailing takeaway from a lot of preseason hockey yesterday?
No, not really.
No takeaways.
Other than the only question I would ask is if you've heard of Ty Fellhaber and Jake Livingstone, then kudos to you. So.
Well, Livingstone's
a good player.
Yeah.
That was a nice goal he scored yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
I'm interested to see. I think he's going to start in Milwaukee.
Definitely caught us off guard with that one. So
yeah,
he scored on Bobrovsky.
Yeah, good hands by Livingstone on that play. So he's in all seriousness, their defense core is pretty interesting to me this year. Like, Shin was skating with Yossi the other day, and like, are they getting ready to play Luke Shin 22 minutes a night?
No.
We'll see what happens.
I tell you what.
It's kind of sounded like that.
Really,
it does.
Really quick, my thought. I think it's going to be interesting for Jeremy Lazan.
I agree.
Considering what he has around him and the other bigger guys that are more physically dominating than him. I think Jeremy has a role that way, but I think the other guys have kind of showcased themselves a little bit better than he has so far.
He's a 7th D right now, isn't he?
100%.
Yeah.
100% is.
At least that's what I think. So that's going to be interesting to see how that part of it shakes out. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Caroline Fenton. We'll get into some college football talk with her. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
All the big stories.
I fully expected DeAndre Hopkins wanting a one-year deal.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
You're going to make a trade like this.
Does he want to retire a Tennessee Titan?
The door's on the board.
Such superstar players. The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Teddy's Tavern, downtown's newest bar with an old Nashville feel, is conveniently located across the street from Bridgestone Arena and just blocks away from the pedestrian bridge. Get a taste of the new brunch menu to fuel your Titans Day pride on game day. Pre-game specials from 9 a.m. till kickoff when the Titans play at home include 2-for-1 draft beers, mimosas, and Bloody Marys. Teddy's Tavern is where you want to be before every Titans home game, so come downtown early and meet me at Teddy's.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Monell's, with 2 locations in Nashville. Bringing people together over a home-cooked meal is what Monell's is all about. Today, you can pay $25 for a gift card worth $50. Enjoy Monell's Southern comforts, like their world-famous skillet fried chicken, while spending time with family and new friends for half the price. Pick up one of Nashville's hottest deals while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Monell's, $50 gift card for $25 at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook, a casino celebrating 30 years by offering the industry's biggest 125% sign-up bonus. Get started at BetUS.com. The Tennessee Titans fell to 1-2 on Sunday after a loss to Cleveland to the Browns. What does head coach Mike Vrabel think of his team scoring 3 touchdowns through 3 weeks?
I think the Saints and certainly the Browns are going to be 2 of the better defenses in the league. Chargers presented their problems, but on the road, you have to be really good. Against those 2 defenses, we were not. So we're going to get back to work.
Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals picked up their first win of the season last night, 19-16 over the Los Angeles Rams. Joe Burrow and the Bengals take on the Titans this weekend. And stay tuned for the Tennesseans' Nick Suss as he'll join Robby and Rexrode at 8 a.m. talking everything Titans going into Week 4 action. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
And the score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Mixing sports and a little bit of fun.
This is fun!
On your morning drive. This is Robby and Rexrode. With Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Hope everybody is doing well. Time to talk a little college football, and as we do every Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock, we welcome in our friend Caroline Fenton to the program, host of Caroline, Willie, and D-Mays. Caroline, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. We had, I think, the best slate of games in the history of college football ever last weekend. It was awesome.
I enjoyed every second of it. It was a beautiful Saturday of college football watching. Capped off by the Notre Dame-Ohio State game that night. Ryan Day a little fired up after that one, taking shots at Lou Holtz and all those things. But what a game and what a win for the Buckeyes on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, Lou Holtz is 100 years old. What are we doing? Ryan Day, what are we doing taking shots at Lou Holtz?
He did it on the sideline and then in the post-game press conference,
Did you guys hear?
Yes.
Did you guys hear what Lou Holtz said?
Yeah.
It's completely harmless.
I know. It's just geez, dude. He's fired up.
You just won, a top 10, top 15 matchup? Maybe you should focus on your players. Maybe you should focus on just, giving praise to the people that deserve the praise and maybe leave old and senile Lou Holtz alone.
Also,
I don't know if it's the Deion Sanders effect where everybody takes things personally, but come on,
I guess
Ryan
so.
Day.
Also, he's like, it's Ohio against everybody. I'm like, you're from Manchester, New Hampshire, bro. Just calm down, okay?
Ohio versus everyone.
It's Ohio versus everybody driving the left lane 40 miles an hour. Yeah, seriously. Put Vrabel in. Get Vrabel up there, right? Let's go.
Just beautiful stuff. Caroline, Alabama taking down Ole Miss. Alabama's defense in that game really, really good. Milrose settled in, made a couple of big plays, but I thought that was a chance for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss to get in there and get that win, but what a performance defensively by the Crimson Tide on Saturday.
Yeah, great day defensively for Alabama. Overall, just a gross game. I expected Alabama to win that game. And I know that sounds crazy because it's an Alabama team that's really struggled through 3, and I'll even add 4 weeks. I mean, that wasn't a flawless Alabama kind of performance from Alabama against Ole Miss, but a win's a win and you're going to take it. I don't think that Lane Kiffin will ever beat Nick Saban. I don't think that he will ever beat him, because the conversation whenever I'd say, I think Alabama's going to win, the response was always, well, if Lane Kiffin can't beat him now, than when? And my response was never. He will never beat Nick Saban for a few reasons. One, Lane, get off Twitter. Like, stop trying to dunk on Nick Saban and throw little things, little breadcrumbs in Nick Saban's way the week of the game. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but early last week, I think it was probably Lane's first press conference of the week, looking ahead to Alabama. And Lane said that he thought that the cornerbacks coach was calling defensive plays and not the defensive coordinator. And he basically said, well, I know people within that organization that know things and they tell me things. And it's like, what are you trying to do there? Are you trying to throw Nick Saban off? Are you trying to have to lead him to try and find a rat? Like, oh, some sort of state secret about defensive plays and you put up 10 points? Like, that's just embarrassing. So I feel like Lane Kiffin in big games always tries to out-cute himself, always tries to outsmart everyone when really all he needs to do is just stick with what's working. Like, you're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter and you're throwing slants and running the football up the middle for a gain of 2, a gain of 3 here and there. Like, you are an offensive guru, and that is the best performance that you can come up with, really? Like, I think we need to start having the conversation that Lane Kiffin can't win big games. Because I think the biggest game that Lane Kiffin won was at Neyland 2 years ago, and that was a 7-6 Tennessee team. Yeah, so he can't beat Alabama. He just always gets in his own way. He tries to outsmart everybody else. And, if you're Ole Miss and you're good with going 8-4, 9-3, maybe 10-2 on a really good year, then great. Then Lane Kiffin is your guy. But I think that we have seen what we're going to get with Lane Kiffin.
Well, I just want him to keep trolling. I don't disagree with anything you said, but please don't stop trolling, Lane. So, Caroline.
Please don't take any joy out of our lives, Lane Kiffin.
Exactly. So, how should Vols fans feel, Caroline, after this latest performance?
It is crazy. The Vols fans in my life after last weekend said, I hate the Vols. I hate Joe Milton. I'm never watching another Tennessee game again. And now all of a sudden there seems to be a renewed sense of belief in Joe Milton after they beat UTSA. Crazy how that happens. Look, I think that you should feel good that you took care of business against a team that you were supposed to beat. I think that you should feel good that you were able to put the backup quarterback in there at the end of the game like you should have been able to. Let him get some reps. Let him get some experience. That is what that game was for. It's a get-right game after a tough loss in a tough environment against a team that you probably should have beaten. The way that I feel is, hey, get right. You looked good. Get right going into South Carolina this weekend. Do I feel any different about Joe Milton now than I did last week? No, I don't. I feel the same way. I think that Joe Milton is a fine quarterback that can run your offense, that overthrows receivers probably a little bit too much, that could probably use a little bit more help from his receivers in those deep balls. That's what I saw on Saturday. Overthrows from Joe Milton, but also catchable balls that the receivers need to catch. And hey, look, he's not Hendon Hooker. This offense is not last year's offense, but you can still win a whole lot of games with this offense and with Joe Milton.
Are you surprised, Caroline, that the line in that Tennessee-South Carolina game is what it is, and Tennessee's an 11.5-point favorite? I mean, I realize it's Saturday night at Neyland Stadium. They're at home. Mm-hmm. That line's bigger than I thought it would be.
I'm shocked. And that's really no disrespect whatsoever to Tennessee, but more so tipping my cap to what South Carolina has done so far this season. And I think that South Carolina is incredibly underrated. And I think that Vegas line is a reflection of more so the outcome and not the process for South Carolina. Look, they lost to a really good North Carolina team who's probably better than we expected. They dominated Georgia in the first half. They were up 2 scores going into half, and then Georgia figured things out and did what Georgia does and comes back in the second half. So they lost to the number 1 team in the country. And then, that Mississippi State game was probably a lot closer than any of us expected it to be. Spencer Rattler completed 17 of his first 17 passes. He was 18 of 20 on the day. And Mississippi State just all of a sudden decided to go back to the air raid, because Will Rogers threw it 48 times and put up over 400 yards of passing offense. So I don't think that South Carolina was necessarily prepared for that. So I think that South Carolina is a better team than their record, or maybe the final scores may indicate. I would have, if I'm Vegas, I probably would have put it at like Tennessee -6.5. That is a very, very massive spread. But maybe Vegas is taking into account like the revenge factor of South Carolina foiled our college football playoff hopes and tore our quarterback's ACL. So we're going to come back with a vengeance. Maybe that's the factor here. But overall, I don't think that these two teams are really all that different.
Yeah, I mean, kneeling counts or something, but I'm a bit surprised. It'll be interesting to see if that moves down all this week. Any money goes down in South Carolina. So we did at the Athletic, this Heisman straw poll, and I'm like, dude, all of my Heisman candidates are Pac-12 quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know if people have watched much Michael Penix Jr. for Washington, but and of course Bo Nix lights up Colorado. What about the Pac-12, Caroline? I mean, I got to say, I'm already sad that it's dying after this year, but at least I guess it's going out with a bang.
It is kind of a shame, isn't it, that, the Pac-12 has really kind of been an abysmal football conference for the entirety of the college football playoff existence. And now we're sitting here, we could probably make a case for 4 teams in the Pac-12 to make it to the college football playoff in its final year. So, I bid you adieu, Pac-12, but thank you for everything that you've done for us. Yeah, I mean, you look at Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, who has been lighting things up just like we all expected when he left Auburn. Sometimes you need to change scenery, and it's looking pretty good for Bo Nix. And then even Cam Rising at Utah. The Pac-12 is absolutely stacked with quarterbacks. And then throw Shedeur Sanders in there as well. I was having this conversation last week that, let's say, in a crazy fantasy world, it was either Auburn or Mississippi State that hired Deion Sanders instead of Colorado. Shedeur Sanders would probably be the best quarterback in the SEC, which is crazy to think about considering he might be the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the Pac-12. This conference is tight, but what I'm curious to see is, because right now it's easy for us to say that, hey, there could be easily 2 Pac-12 teams in the college football playoff. But what happens when all these teams beat up on one another? What happens when Oregon beats USC and USC beats Washington and Washington beats Oregon? Then what is the conference going to look like? And that's kind of the double-edged sword of a 4-team playoff, is you've got 3 or 4 really good teams from the same conference that just beat each other and may just take all of these teams out of contention for the playoff. But man, the Pac-12 is so much more fun than it has ever been. And then you add in the fact that, oh yeah, by the way, Deion Sanders coaches in that conference as well. And it makes it even more exciting and more fun.
To answer your question, you just put Alabama in.
Just put them in. Why not?
Saban in.
Caroline, last thing for you here. What is Kentucky? Kentucky, they jump out to a 24-0 lead against Vandy. And really, it was kind of a struggle for Kentucky. It was a hard football game to watch for a lot of that second half. They win the game, obviously. They put up a ton of points against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, I think, has been more disappointing than I thought they would be heading in this year. But Kentucky's got Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Alabama coming up in their next 6 games. What do you think this Kentucky team is?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Because I have no idea what a team is after they play Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and Vanderbilt. I really don't, because you don't have a difficult test on that schedule through 4 games. Now, I do think that Devin Leary is a good quarterback. I do think that Ray Davis is a good complement to him in this Liam Cohen, Los Angeles Rams, West Coast offense, which they want to run the football. And I do think that this offensive line is much improved. That was the issue last year. The offensive line for Kentucky was absolute garbage. And they gave up 5 sacks to Eastern Illinois last year. Kentucky is tied for giving up the fewest sacks in the SEC, only giving up 3 on the season so far. So that's a massive, massive difference. Part of that is probably the change of offensive coordinator, and part of that is just you got better players in the offensive line now. But really, Rob, I have no idea what this Kentucky team is, because they've taken care of business so far. They've struggled in some games. They've looked great in some games, but they've found a way to win all 4 of those games. What are we going to learn about them against Florida? Again, I don't really know, because I don't know if Florida is more of what we saw week 1 against Utah or more of what we saw week 3 against Tennessee. I think that Florida is still a very flawed team that has really good players. Did you see that Ricky Pearsall catch?
That's unbelievable.
I mean, maybe more impressive than Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I really don't think that we are going to learn much about this Kentucky team until they play Georgia. 2 weeks from now.
Caroline Fenton with us here on Robby and Rexrode, joins us every Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock. Caroline, great stuff as always. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be listening at 11 o'clock.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.
Caroline Fenton with us every Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock. We'll get into Tennessee, their matchup against South Carolina coming up this week. It is Shane Beamer Goober Hate Week on the program. And we'll get more to that.
One person. I'm not participating in that.
It's a show policy.
Very
We're going to adopt that
coach.
coming up next. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll get Joe starts on dark mode on Saturday night, too. Tennessee going with the black jerseys. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Football is back, and so are the deals at Electronic Express. Come into any of our convenient locations and save big on 4K TVs from your favorite brands like Samsung, LG, Sony, and more. This week at Electronic Express, save up to 40% in every department, including computers, appliances, smart home, Bluetooth speakers, and more. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing. Score amazing deals in-store or online at electronicexpress.com. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
There are ordinary hotels, and there's the Four Seasons. There are ordinary cars, and there's the Rolls-Royce. There are ordinary handbags, and there's Gucci. There are ordinary engagement rings, and there's Genesis. A Genesis diamond ring is unlike any other. Artistic, innovative design, handcrafted precision, exceptional detail and quality. This is why people who work at other jewelers come to Genesis for their rings. A Genesis ring is considered the gold standard in bridal, with no compromises, no cut corners, nothing short of perfection. We have the look, the style every woman dreams about. At Genesis, you'll find dozens of exclusive world-class bridal designers who are revered for their attention to detail, exceptional vision, and superior craftsmanship. A Genesis ring rises to the occasion, reflecting her style, her unique personality, her confidence, her individuality. In a world filled with ordinary, for this moment, choose extraordinary. Choose Genesis. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
This year, Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee celebrates its 120th anniversary. Through time, BGCMT continues to evolve to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible leaders. Because of your continued support, BGCMT has remained strong and is committed to supporting our youth and solidifying our mission and culture in new exciting ways for 120 years. Visit bgcmt.org today.
King C. Gillette is the modern man's answer to their facial hair. With a complete set of precision tools, the King C. Gillette line offers the perfect fit for your facial hairstyle. Want to try something great? Try the Style Master, the quintessential styling tool that every man needs to craft their style. It's a waterproof, cordless trimmer with a long-lasting 4-directional blade. It's extremely versatile and designed to edge, trim, and stubble in 4 directions on any hair length. Master your style with King C. Gillette.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode.
It's part of this nutritious breakfast.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Gamecock football, this is Kim. I'm sorry, he's not in yet. Would you like his voicemail?
Yeah! Yeah! 13 miles an hour! Eat that, Nick Harbor!
Dino made several 911 calls about cars going too fast in front of the building. So the police put up a radar gun and it's actually caused a bit of a traffic hazard.
Wow, 14! No! There was wind! There was wind! No! I was just jogging! I want a do-over! No. 14 is the new number. AB, you're up. I want another try! Here we go! 31! 31! There was a car! I was ahead of the car! 31's my new number! That's humanly impossible. Go, AB! 31's my number! That's impossible. Beat it!
Yes, it is officially South Carolina Hate Week here on the program. We're adopting it. Rexrode, you're involved in South Carolina Hate Week. Nick Keyser involved in South Carolina Hate Week, specifically Shane Beamer. Keyser's been hanging out on TikTok too much, watching these Shane Beamer clips. I guess that was an Office bit that he tried to replicate there.
Yes, it was.
He gets on my nerves.
That was a good example of annoying Shane Beamer. But I'm not. I mean, my wife's first job out of college is at a newspaper in South Carolina. She still has good friends there that she loves. She still roots for the Gamecocks from her time in South Carolina. I can't go full hate on South Carolina. We have the South Carolina State thing on one of our cars.
Do you?
Yes. South Carolina mugs. I love Charleston.
Well, look, I enjoy visiting the state
man?
of South Carolina. It's got nice people. Their football coach drives me absolutely insane. We're going to find out.
I'm a
on
Virginia
Saturday.
Tech fan. I love the Beamers as a family. As a family, crew, and a record label.
Captain Goober. And we're going to find out on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. What do you make of the line? Like, in all seriousness, I saw this line for Tennessee at home. And look, it is Saturday night at Neyland Stadium, and that place is going to be insane. Like, the Tennessee fans have been looking forward to this game and this matchup for a long time. And it's going to be a Saturday night. They're wearing the dark mode jerseys, which I know you love, is when Tennessee doesn't wear orange at home when they start throwing around different jerseys, which now in 2 of 3 home games they will have done so far this year, wearing different jerseys other than the orange ones.
Wouldn't want to honor tradition or anything.
But the dark mode jerseys coming up on Saturday, I like them. They look good. That environment's going to be insane. So we know that Neyland Stadium, it has to count for something in this, and it's going to be loud. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be crazy. We know all that. I still look at that and think, based on what we've seen from Tennessee and what we've seen from South Carolina, and I know South Carolina, look, they played North Carolina in week 1. They gave up 9 sacks. They almost got their quarterback killed in that game. They really struggled the next week for like the first half of that game against like Furman or whoever they played. They looked great against Georgia for a half. Then Georgia comes back. Last week, Spencer Rattler looked awesome in that game against Mississippi State. But I think based on what we've seen from both teams, like 11.5 feels like a lot for me for Tennessee to be favored by that much in this matchup. I think it should be favored. Like, they're at home. I think Tennessee still is a better overall team than South Carolina is. 11.5 is a big line for Tennessee at home on Saturday.
No, I totally agree. Watching South Carolina in the opener, I was like, boy, that offensive line might be a problem. But that does happen sometimes. You hope it happens in Nashville at some point. But that offensive line can look pretty rough early, figure things out. I watched the whole South Carolina-Georgia game. I don't see how that team is an 11.5-point underdog at Tennessee, the way Tennessee has played and the way they hung in at Georgia. Georgia, punched them in the mouth in the second half and asserted themselves and kind of ran away. But there was a lot of tit-for-tat football that day from your boy, the Goober, and his team that impressed me. And Rattler,
he's playing really well.
I mean, the guy is, I don't know what Rattler is, as we know, all the hype and then how it didn't pan out at Oklahoma and all that stuff. I don't know what he is as an NFL prospect. He's some kind of NFL prospect, but he, in that offense, and Logan Dowell, I mean, they've got something going. So I think they're absolutely going to move the ball in Tennessee. The night game and all that, like, what comes to mind is like the Kentucky game last year.
Right.
But, the Kentucky had zero chance of protecting Will Levis in that game. So I think it's going to be a good football game.
I think it is too. Like, I do think Tennessee, they beat UTSA on Saturday. I mean, it's UTSA, so we're not going to spend a ton of time like dissecting that game. The takeaway that I did have from that was their offense looked more like their offense, and what I mean by that is the Josh Heupel offense than it's looked like at any point this year. Beyond production, Joe Milton had a house call first play of the game, 81 yards where he ran the ball. Their passing game looked a little better on Saturday. More than anything, though, like their tempo was where you're used to seeing it, which to me has not been the case all year. Like, they've been, slow is probably not the right word because still relatively speaking, they move fast, but they have not had the same tempo this year that they've had the last couple years with Hooker as quarterback, and that's been a problem. And some of that has been when you're throwing incompletions left and right, or you can't get things going offensively, it's hard to get into a rhythm and get tempo. They were moving quick on Saturday. Really, for like the first time this year, I thought they sustained a little bit of tempo. Now, again, it's UTSA, so what does that mean as they move forward here? I don't know. They still had a lull in the third quarter where Tennessee was terrible on defense in the third quarter, and their offense didn't get anything going, and then they picked it back up in the fourth and was fine. They ended up winning 45-14. But that was the main takeaway from Tennessee Saturday was it looked like the tempo was back in a spot where they wanted it to be. Is that sustainable, or is that a one-game thing against UTSA? That's the question.
Well, that's an execution thing on your own that you should be able to do regardless of opponent. So clearly it was an emphasis. And, yeah, they absolutely need it. That's such a huge part of their success is the 6 to 8 plays a game where you just get something because they're not set, because they didn't get lined up. And, yeah, I mean, Florida was having no problem getting lined up.
No.
That was – so, no, I think that's a good point, and that's a key thing. It's really interesting with Tennessee right now with the running backs. Sampson does nothing at Florida, is the star of the next game. Jalen Wright has 4 carries.
Yep, and he's hurt.
And he's
Jalen Wright's banged up. And, I don't know what that means. Like, Tennessee, that's the one thing from Saturday that I think is concerning. They had a lot of guys banged up. I mean, Joe Milton, I thought for a second Joe Milton was like season was over. Like the way he looked awful. Buckled up there in the pocket on a sack. I mean, his back was bent over and his knee was stuck at the bottom of the pile, and I thought for a minute he was done. And he gets back up and he plays, and Josh Heupel talked about it yesterday. They checked him out on Sunday. He's fine. Looks like he's going to be ready to go. So you dodged a bullet there.
He dodged one there.
Absolutely. I mean, it looked bad for a second, but Sampson on Saturday, 11 carries, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, to me, he's got to be a part of the plan moving forward. Now, Jalen Wright, I still feel like is their best back, but what's his status going to be for the game Saturday? He did get banged up in this game, and Tennessee had a couple of guys get banged up. So a little bit of injury concerns for the Vols heading into this game.
And when's Keenan Peely come back, that will make a difference.
Yep.
And Cooper Mays. I mean, at this point, I almost sense a little bit of frustration even from Heupel on that. And you just had a mute, by the way.
2-1.
Yes, we're having quite a muting Tuesday. But it's an interesting one. You're talking about – there was talk about him maybe being able to be there for the opener.
Yeah.
And here we are, and still not happening. And you start to wonder what's going on.
It's the way that Heupel said it Saturday, too. Like, he was asked about it after the game, and his comment was he just didn't feel like he could play.
Yeah.
And it was I don't know, it was the way he said it, the tone he said it, where it's just like, what's going on with Cooper Mays there? It was a little weird.
Yeah, it is, and it's I don't know. I mean, sometimes you have an injury, you could play, you worry about your long-term future. That happens. I don't know if that's happening here, but they certainly could use him up front.
Will from Nashville in the text line says, I'm not suggesting y'all said this, but anyone who ever brings up revenge factor stuff, it's complete horse bleep as it relates to any game, ever. It does not exist. Tennessee may just be 11 or 12 points better. I don't know, but that line did surprise me. This is from Will from Nashville.
What do you mean it doesn't exist? You're telling me that if you got blown out by a team, you're telling me that Kentucky, when they came in here Saturday to play Vanderbilt, didn't have a little extra juice because Vanderbilt beat them last year? You're telling me that Tennessee this week isn't going to watch clips all week long of South Carolina just going up and down the field
dusting
on
them last year?
That's ridiculous. It's absolutely so. I mean, coaches lean into it heavily
all the time.
Yeah. Come on.
Oh, it matters. Now, is it an 11.5-point line?
No.
I don't know.
But no, and I have no idea how much that even if that's a factor in a line.
Right.
I don't know. But is it a factor in reality with humans playing a game? Yes.
615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Vols on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we'll also get into Vanderbilt and another tough performance for them on Saturday against Kentucky. What does this mean, and how disappointing is what we've seen from Vanderbilt to this point in the season? We'll get into all that next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards! Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
C10 Nationals, the world's largest Chevy and GMC truck event, is coming to the Nashville Superspeedway September 29th and 30th. Packed with vendors and activities, autocross, swap meet, dyno, drag race, and more. Daily tickets $20 at the gate, and parking is free. More info at c10nationals.com.
Yo, 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 what's up, party people? I'm Julie Foudy.
And I'm Lynn Ozawi.
We host the ESPN podcast Laughter Permitted, where we have candid chats with trailblazing women in sports and beyond.
We've talked with goats like Billie Jean King, Simone Biles, Mia Hamm, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, Michaela Schifrin, just to name a few.
So grab a donut or 500 and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. And a huge shout out to our presenting sponsor, Ally, who has supported us since day one. It's Laughter Permitted.
As a roofer, I don't have time to fail. Homeowners rely on me, so I rely on Beacon. Beacon's unique network of branches work together to get me what I need when I need it. Every branch working together. And with the new Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips. Now through June, purchase online with Beacon Pro Plus, web or app, and earn up to $1,500. Beacon, always building.
If it's important to Nashville,
I'll put it out right now.
It's important to Jared Stillman.
Like, that's it.
He's not afraid to ask the tough questions.
Something is going on, and the question is, what does it mean?
Or give the strong opinion.
And just needed the bozo offensive coordinator to stop ruining the quarterback.
Stillman and Company. Weekdays at 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Penny Hardaway, University of Memphis coach. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Call TJ's team today to see why they're referred to so often. We are live from our 102.5 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Make sure you tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits this Thursday for MTSU football. The Blue Raiders will kick off at 6:30 on the road against rival Western Kentucky. Pregame beginning at 5:30. You can hear all the coverage on the 93.3 Classic app and at 93.3ClassicHits.com. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Tuesday morning. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up at 7:45. Nick Suss from the Tennessean joining us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk all things Tennessee Titans with him. Looking forward to that. Joe, the Vanderbilt Commodores, I'm watching that game on Saturday, and it just gets off to about as bad of a start as it could for Vanderbilt. I mean, Kentucky goes right up down the field. They score a touchdown. Just a brutal pick six by A.J. Swan. And before you know it, you turn around and it's 24-0 in that game, and it looks like Kentucky's just about to blow them out and blow the doors off of Vanderbilt at home. Now, things got a little bit better for Vanderbilt as the game went on. Final score ends up being 45-28. They found some things offensively a little bit later in the game. Kentucky stalled out offensively. Kentucky really from late in the second half until about the start of the fourth quarter looked pretty bad offensively.
Vanderbilt played some of its best defense of the year in this game.
They did. I mean, they turned things around after the start, but still you're talking about a 17-point loss at home against a Kentucky team that, quite frankly, I'm with Caroline. I don't really know what to make of them yet. I don't know how good or not good they are based on what we've seen. Like Leary, the interesting part about him, like he makes some throws where you're like, wow, what a great throw. And then he'll have some where you're just like, geez, that was terrible. Like some of the I think the first interception he threw on Saturday is just brutal from Leary in that game. So I don't know what to make of Kentucky yet, but you're talking about Vanderbilt, a 2-3 start to the season. We've discussed the disappointment of the non-conference schedule and not being able to find a way to get to 3-1 there. But just the way they started that game to me, Joe, I thought was really, really disappointing. And just some bad decision-making from A.J. Swan in that game. And, I still believe A.J. Swan has a lot of ability, and I think when he's at his best, he can be a good player. But you're talking on Saturday, 16 of 40, 189 yards, 3 picks for A.J. Swan. Now, I will say, he did have some drops. Like Will Shepherd dropped a couple of passes in that game. Jaden McGowan had a drop in that game. So his receivers didn't help him a ton. But 16 of 40, 189 yards, 3 picks in that game was not very good from A.J. Swan on Saturday.
I mean, it lost the game. Look, he threw 2 pick sixes and another one returned to the 11 that turned into a touchdown. He gave them 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it looks like Kentucky just rolled up and down the field on Vanderbilt's offense. 21 of those 45 points were gifts. 2 specific defensive touchdowns and one that was just it's a gimme.
Yeah.
So they scored 20. They earned 24 points with their offense. If you told me on Saturday that Kentucky would earn 24 points with their offense against Vanderbilt, say, okay, that's pretty good, and Vanderbilt's got a chance to win. And they would have, absolutely. I don't know what – I mean, A.J. Swan, again, one of them was like, it's just incredible that he ever made the decision to throw the ball, and this is happening too much. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's a true sophomore, so you're going to have some growing pains, but it's killing him right now.
Yeah.
So Aria Gerson, beat writer for Tennessee and for Vanderbilt, had a really good tweet. If you took the points off turnovers from the game, and she took them for both teams, here are your final scores. Vanderbilt 35, Hawaii 28, Vanderbilt 47, Alabama and A&M 13, Wake Forest 26, Vanderbilt 20, Vanderbilt 30, UNLV 27, Vanderbilt 25, Kentucky 24. 4-1 football team. Everybody's going gaga. And understanding, obviously, you're going to have some mistakes and some turnovers. But honestly, I'm seeing some things from this team, even with ridiculous injuries. They didn't even have Dericky Wright.
Yeah.
Jalen Mahoney gets a targeting a minute into the game. He's out. They got, John House is like a way down the depth chart, has a pick. I mean, there's some things from this team that are actually getting better, but if your quarterback's going to give the other team the ball like that, you have zero chance. So I don't know what that means moving forward. I mean, he's very talented, and he still also makes a lot of big plays, and the 28 points also can be traced to him making big plays, and the pass offense is the best part of this team. But by the way, I'm sorry I'm so hoarse. I'm still hoarse from yelling at a high school football game Friday. I don't know why on Tuesday it's still an issue, but I've been hoarse for days. It's an interesting situation for Clark Lee because you do have Ken Seals, who is not going to be throwing these pick sixes. He's not as dynamic, but he's a reliable senior, and you could go that way and have – I think you'd have a higher floor because you aren't making all these mistakes, but you also have this young quarterback who could – and once he eliminates these mistakes, could still be a very dynamic quarterback in this league. It's a really interesting situation.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's just the decision make. The first pick six, I mean, he's running around back there for his life, right? And he's trying to escape the pocket, and he sees the back out there in the flat, and he's trying to dump it off there. But, at some point, the clock in your
across
head
the field
has got to go off that you're throwing the ball across the field. Just get rid of the ball, throw it out of bounds if you're going to do that. I mean, it was the easiest pick six in the world. I mean, it's just a gift to Kentucky there. So he's making too many decisions like that, and that's not been just a Kentucky game thing. That's been all year from A.J. Swan of just making some decisions that are very questionable. Look, he's a college quarterback. He's a true sophomore, like you said. And he's not going to be perfect out there. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's making some mistakes right now that are just killing Vanderbilt. And, Vanderbilt, I agree with you. I thought they took some strides in this game defensively. When it was 24-0, it looked like for a second that Kentucky was going to hang up about 55 on Vanderbilt, and it was going to be one of those days where it was just brutal to watch. They battled their way back in the second half defensively. Like I said, I mean, Kentucky went through a stretch through the second and third quarter. They scored 3 points in the second quarter and 7 in the third quarter. And defensively, Vanderbilt was shutting them down. I mean, they couldn't get anything going offensively. Even Ray Davis. I mean, he started the game off, I think his long was 38 on Saturday. And he played well, but they did a decent job of bottling him up as that game went on. But the turnovers are just killing them. And, you look at this team right now. They got Missouri coming in on Saturday, Florida on the road the week after that, and then it's Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. Who I don't know what to think of Auburn.
Auburn's
right now.
Auburn's a possibility.
Auburn's a possibility, but just the schedule based on the way that Vanderbilt has played to this point, I'm not seeing a ton of opportunity for wins based on the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. By the way, as pointed out to me, Seals was on the field last touchdown. And that's the thing when I talk about interesting situations. Swan did get hurt, so it may be that Seals has to go this week. Now, Dave asked, Joe, did Vandy knowingly start an injured QB? Anybody in the stands could tell it was more than just a bad performance. I thought he got hit. I thought he got hurt in the game. Now, it doesn't mean he wasn't in some way banged up somewhat going in, but I think he got hurt in the game.
Right.
So I don't think that's what it was.
That pick six had nothing to do with him being hurt. It was just a horrendous decision.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's like Mike from Shelbyville, how has it possibly gotten worse game by game? Again, I don't think they've gotten worse in all aspects game by game. I think the Kentucky game defensively actually was a step forward. I mean, it really was. Maybe Kentucky, like you said, they got up big and they kind of took the foot out. That happens. I mean, maybe it's more that. But I still thought that they did some better things. Look, Vanderbilt's offensive line continues to be, I think, the most disappointing aspect of this team. But also A.J. Swann's mistakes as a sophomore. You hope you clean that up more. So, Missouri is they're kind of like the little story here in the SEC right now, and Luther Burden is an absolute monster. I don't think there's no chance for Vanderbilt, but another question is Clark Lee and keeping that team together and all that stuff. I'm going back and forth on Will from Nashville on how, revenge and emotion and stuff. Will thinks everybody's a robot and they have the exact same preparation every week. Everything's the exact same. No.
Especially in college, because college kids, they never vary.
No, yeah, they prepare the exact same every week. It's all that. No. I mean, any kind of thing, anything that brings emotion and more incentive matters. I mean, what are you talking about? So putting that in this context, at some point you lose enough and you get beat down enough and you're at Vanderbilt. It's a big job.
Yeah.
It's a big job for Clark Lee right now to keep me. I mean, I think that they could compete with Missouri. I think they could compete on their best day with Florida. Just watched Florida this last week. They looked like the same kind of crappy team that never should have blown out Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes that one very
But
frustrating.
I'm sure there was no emotion that had anything to do with Florida and hearing how they were going to get killed beating Tennessee.
I'm sure there wasn't. Joe, you wanted to get
It's
to
AI. It's artificial intelligence football.
You wanted to get to some Pac-12 quarterback football conversation. A lot of people reacting to our conversation with Caroline earlier about the Pac-12 and the quarterback strength of that conference.
Yeah.
Some people mad that we have Shedeur Sanders as low as we did.
Well, Dwight says, Joe, how come you don't have the young Sanders kid as the Heisman frontrunner like Jared does? I did hear Jared last week say if Colorado beats Oregon, the Heisman's over. I'm like,
done.
Jared, please just stop talking about college football.
Third of the way through the season.
Dead done. But I will say this. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
So we all agree Caleb Williams, he could win the Heisman again, but also he's going to be the number one pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nix, Penix, Shedeur Sanders, which one of those three are you drafting?
I would probably – this is just me. I would rank them Williams 1. I would probably go Nix 2, Sanders 3, Penix 4. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm quickly saying Sanders. I think Sanders has a higher upside of the Nix and Penix, absolutely. Sanders is not going to be a Heisman frontrunner because, as we saw with Colorado, they got blown out. They're going to lose some games. I still think they're going to be like an 8-4, 7-5, which is still a massive story and a massive job by Deion Sanders his first year. But that's he's not going to win the Heisman. But if you want to compare Sanders right now and those guys, let's talk offensive line. Let's talk Ryan Tannehill and quarterbacks who have zero chance because of their offensive line. I mean, those guys have complete – Bo Nix has a complete team around him. Michael Penix has a very good –
For sure.
Michael Penix has pro receivers out there running. I mean, Shedeur Sanders doesn't have a ton of help, especially with Travis Hunter hurt. I think he'd be my guy. So, he's not going to win the Heisman because the team success is not going to end up helping him, but I think he's special.
I do agree that any one of those four guys, I mean, obviously Williams, but any one of those four guys I think would clearly be the best quarterback in the SEC right now. I mean, I look, say what you will about Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been pretty darn good the last 2 years in Oregon. He had the bad game against Georgia to begin the season last year, but I mean, it was Georgia. Other than that, he's been pretty darn good with the Ducks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I also think that this is a great example of when you put a quarterback and you have all the things that are helping him, scheme and talent around him, it matters. But good on him for taking advantage of it.
Well, the most amazing part, people were talking about this on Saturday in the middle of the Colorado game. Bo Nix played against Justin Herbert in college football. Justin Herbert's been in the league 4 years. And Bo Nix played against him in college football his first year at Auburn.
Good Lord.
Been there for a long time.
Yeah. Josh from Murfreesboro on Will says, that guy clearly has never beaten a team that beat him the year before. That's one of the best feelings ever. All caps. I mean, all my kid talks about is trying to beat Page this year.
Well, look, I guarantee you, I don't know that if the Goober has spoken yet this week. I don't think that he has, talking about Shane Beamer. I guarantee you probably one of the things that's going to come up is, that environment for about the first 10 minutes, you're going to have to weather it because it's going to be great. And Tennessee's going to be flying around for the first – I don't know what that means for the final score of the game, but Tennessee is going to come out with their hair on fire in that game against South Carolina.
It's already a good home environment. It's an SEC game and all that. Absolutely, it is going to be different. It is going to be more intense because of how embarrassing last year was.
Yes.
Maybe that matters or not. Like I said, if Tennessee gives up a couple scooping scores, then okay, that offsets it. But it is a factor. My God, of course it's a factor.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. We may have just gotten a little preview. We'll see what happens. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
He knows Nashville sports.
I love Clark Lee. He is a brilliant dude.
And he's not scared to tell it like it is.
They were atrocious on defense a year ago.
He is Outkick's Chad Withrow.
We really don't care. You're here. You signed a grant of rights.
Withrow joins Stillman and Company every Friday at 5. Brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
I know they were doing that for him to be the third-string quarterback in year one.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention all commercial plumbing and HVAC experts. Tennessee's fastest growing commercial plumbing and HVAC company is looking for experienced technicians like you to help service their commercial and industrial customers. Tired of working for your large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Plumbing and HVAC is owned and operated by Nashville natives and want to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced technicians and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top-of-the-line pay with annual bonuses, we'll also provide you with top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and our business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to JarrettCompaniesInc.com and apply today to become a member of our family and serve our community. That's JARRETT CompaniesInc.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
If you're just tuning in, this is Fan 23, Fansville's #1 sports radio station.
Brought to you by Tasty Dr. Pepper.
We are settling the great debate, best third quarter snack, hot dogs or nachos?
You know my mantra, Doug.
Yes.
Meaty early, cheesy late.
Well, it looks like we have a caller here to weigh in. Is this Chuck?
Popcorn in the third is the move.
What?
You go with passive snacking after halftime.
No, it's nachos.
Look, as long as there's an ice cold Dr. Pepper there to wash it down, I'm good with either. Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
If you're just tuning in, this is Fan 23, Fansville's #1 sports radio station.
Brought to you by Tasty Dr. Pepper.
We are settling the great debate, best third quarter snack, hot dogs or nachos?
You know my mantra, Doug.
Yes.
Meaty early, cheesy late.
Well, it looks like we have a caller here to weigh in. Is this Chuck?
Popcorn in the third is the move.
What?
You go with passive snacking after halftime.
No, it's nachos.
Look, as long as there's an ice cold Dr. Pepper there to wash it down, I'm good with either. Dr. Pepper, the one fans deserve.
Football is back, and NFL Plus has you covered. Get NFL Plus, and you'll never miss a moment of live football action this season. With live, local, and primetime games on mobile, NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, live game audio, and more, all in one place. That's right. This season, get NFL Red Zone and NFL Plus Premium so you never miss a touchdown. That's every touchdown from every game, every Sunday during the regular season, across devices. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com. Terms and conditions apply.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save me, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz. He breaks down every game.
The players are still going to be fine.
And knows the ins and outs of the two-tone blue.
They deal with their own position coaches.
He is ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport.
It's clear what he's doing.
TD joins every Monday at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast.
I think that's really cool how he could show both sides.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Okay.
Okay?
Are you?
Absolutely.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
It's that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45. Joe Rexrode, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right, but first, Will. I have to yell at you the whole show? Do I have to just turn this whole show into a rant?
Will?
He's talking about like SD Mace. What? And then thankfully, Robby, you just chimed in the text line. Yeah, D Mace talked about this before, Will. He talked specifically about how when he played the Titans, they moved on from him. They wanted to kick their butt so bad. And, of course, personal.
did.
Now, look, I've made fun of one of it was a couple years ago when the Titans were about to play the Dolphins.
One-arm push-ups?
The one-arm push-ups. Tannehill, like, seeing that Dolphins logo.
Tannehill played great in that game.
He did.
The same.
But quarterback, quarterback is a little bit different, right? Like I think emotion has to be very contained. Linebacker, I don't think it's so bad. Have a little extra emotion.
I mean, look, Tom Brady.
D lineman.
Tom Brady talks about this all the time. Like he just did an interview the other day talking about how much he used to like drum up emotion to get his teammates going, get him going, and all these things. Like it's like this idea. And Will came back and said, "I think you're confused. Like, does emotion exist? Of course. Does it impact outcomes? No.
Why?
It doesn't
That's idiotic.
It doesn't impact outcomes every time. But I mean, look,
it's a factor.
There are countless examples in sports of emotion impacting outcome, which is why you see some of these upsets.
Yeah, So I'm done arguing. It's fine. We can agree to disagree. Your argument is terrible. Okay, let's go on to Friday night and why I'm so hoarse. I really need this to. Am I sick or something? And I don't realize it, but I'm still hoarse.
Some honey, some tea.
One of the greatest. I mean, seriously, just an amazing high school football game. So I just want to say, so incredibly proud of my Nolensville Knights. My son plays for them, but proud of Centennial too. It was a fantastic football game, and it was 17-14. Centennial kicked a field goal, so our kids were very disappointed and all that. But both teams should have been proud. It was just a fantastic game, and one thing about it really left me bothered, and I think I need to say something. And I say this with the understanding that I've said it before, like our officials need to be treated better and respected and invested in and all that stuff. And so I don't want to turn this into, bashing the officials. I think this goes beyond this game. But here's what happened. The third quarter, Centennial had a run, and it was stopped, but they didn't blow the whistle for forward progress. And so then the pile started moving. Yep. And those plays, we've seen it with Derrick Henry over here at Nissan Stadium before. So in my opinion, we talk about making football safer and all the different things we do with the hits to the head and the quarterback's untouchable now and targeting everything. I mean, these are all things that I think are important to keep football going and make it safer. The pile that stopped and then they don't blow the whistle and then everybody gets into it and there's a tangle by is one of the most dangerous things in football. And it's got to get better. So they didn't blow the whistle. And so, the home crowd got all excited because they pushed it forward and they got like a 10-yard gain. But as soon as that happened, I'm up in the stands with some of my friends like, sure hope no one's hurt in there.
Yeah.
No one was, thankfully. In the fourth quarter, they had another run that was hung up and it was kind of stopped. No whistle blown. So our kids, after the other one wasn't blown, there were some hard hits into the pile. It was this big smash-up car situation.
Like rugby style.
Yeah, and one of their kids got really badly hurt. And it was like one of those things where immediately, they're like, come, get him, and it was awful. And, I mean, I was proud of our players, too, for, like, going and talking to him. He's a really good player and saying, hey, hope you're feeling better, all that stuff. It doesn't happen if you blow the whistle for forward progress.
Yep.
So this is, again, I'll take it beyond this game. That is something that I think has to be an emphasis because, I mean, I truly believe, like, this injury is avoided if you blow the whistle. And I understand someone's going to argue, look, you got a running back churning his legs and maybe slowed up but not done. How do you blow that dead? Look, it's a judgment call. I know it's very subjective. I'm just saying in these two situations, to me, clearly the whistle had to be blown. We're talking about kids in particular at that level. I think it's got to be more of an emphasis, but I'd like to see all of football that I'd like to see more erring on the side of caution there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you let things go that way, like I will say there are certainly been some times where you're watching a football game, be it at college, be it at the pro level, where maybe forward progress was blown a little too soon and a player breaks out of it and they keep running. But very rarely does that happen. Like most of the time in college football or the NFL, when you're in a scrum situation like that, very rarely is somebody breaking through that. So like call in the play because then what happens is even if somebody doesn't get hurt, people are firing off left and right into a pile. People start jawing at each other, and then it's, 2 drives of people with late hits or you're trying to control the game after that, all because you didn't blow the whistle on one play, and now emotions have gotten out of hand and teams are jawing back and forth with each other. That does need to be something that is a point of emphasis. And the other part of that is like when you got guys held up like that, somebody diving into the pile, I mean, you're just inviting somebody's knees to get taken out at that point, and it's over.
Right. You got people firing in the pile, which happened the second time. And, again, I have no idea, like, what specifically caused the injury, but just that many bodies, and it's so easy for someone to get rolled up on in a situation like that, and that may be what happened here. I don't know, but it's just you gotta think about that. The first one, right then I'm like, you can't do that. You cannot let that go. So let's be better. But also support your officials. Don't swear at them. Don't yell at them.
Yes, please. Then why are you hoarse? Were you yelling at the officials?
Well, I might have been yelling about that one, but it was mostly it was mostly just
cheering,
yelling support for the kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Nick Suss from the Tennessee, and we'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Looking forward to that. Speaking of the Titans, join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Teddy's Tavern, located across from the Bridgestone Arena Plaza this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Titans' Week 4 matchup against the Bengals and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and the Beast Unleashed. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local. You need to give Ryan Tannehill a 2-year extension. There haven't been too many coaching changes for the Predators. And your source for Nashville sports.
I think that's what the Titans need.
Players who can score. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Golfers, swing into Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new fall arrivals from TaylorMade, Callaway, and Titleist. Come by and test drive the new TaylorMade P790 irons, the new Callaway Apex Pro iron sets, and the new Titleist T-Series irons. While you're there, get a free custom fitting on the new arrivals and more. Edwin Watts Golf Shops is your headquarters for all the latest golf gear from all the top manufacturers. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee. Shop us in store or online at edwinwattsgolf.com.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hi, this is Dr. Brad Schaefer. As a podiatrist, I can tell you no two people's feet are alike, which is why I recommend Dr. Scholl's custom fit orthotic inserts. They're customized for your feet, so you get a unique solution your feet really need, not just a one-size-fits-all insole. They're clinically proven to provide pain relief for achy feet, knees, lower back, plantar fasciitis, and heels. Take the Dr. Scholl's custom fit orthotics assessment in Walmart today, now in the foot care aisle.
Your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is delivered by Black Tie Moving. I'm Nick Keyser. The Nashville Predators kicked off preseason action last night down in Sunrise, Florida, dropping both games to the Florida Panthers by a combined score of 10-2. How much time does head coach Andrew Brunette give his team to get used to his new pace of the system?
It's going to take time, and I think we're 5 days into camp kind of thing, and this was a great day for us, meaning I got to see everybody. As a coaching staff, we're going to put some pretty good video together how we can improve and some of the things we did well and build on it and be ready for Wednesday.
And the Philadelphia Eagles took down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 25-11 last night to kick off the season 3-0 for the second consecutive season. They last accomplished that feat exactly 30 years ago. Meanwhile, the Titans have brought back safety Dane Cruikshank as he signed yesterday, joining the practice squad. He's played 44 games with the Titans overall in his career. This Game Center update has been delivered by Black Tie Moving. Use the promo code GAME to score 10% off your next move.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt.
I think he's got a coach
shot by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Mixing sports and a little bit of fun.
This is fun!
On your morning drive. This is Robby and Rexrode. With Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's showtime.
Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. I almost said Nick Suss. He is going to be with us here in about 30 seconds. But Nick Keyser is also with us here on the program. Talking all things Tennessee Titans. We're taking your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Nick Suss of the Tennessee and covers the Tennessee Titans. Nick, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Nick, you had an interesting stat yesterday that you tweeted out about Christian Fulton and that teams targeting him this year have a perfect passer rating. Obviously, things did not go very well for him on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. How concerned, if you're a Titans fan, do you think that fans should be about Fulton and the way that he's played so far this year when he's been available?
7 out of 10. I mean, some of those plays are – it's tricky to say because I think he's only given up about 13 of those yards after the catch. He's there. Like, it's not like he's getting burnt and then guys are running for 40, 50 yards. When you're losing contested catches, that is concerning, but it's also not necessarily the most sustainable way to lose if you're tending to be around the receiver. Some of these balls against the Saints and against the Browns were close calls, and he lost the close battles to pretty good receivers, but also we're calling Rashid Shaheed a pretty good receiver at this point too. It's kind of a weird balancing act where I think that's probably an outlier, but it's a really notable outlier given the way that the secondaries performed these first couple of games. I mean, dating back to last year as well. And you also have the whole situation of this being his final year of his rookie contract, and you'd probably want to show out in this year. So, yeah, it's a complicated situation. I'd say it's concerning, especially when, I mean, Sean Murphy-Bunting had a couple of rough penalties last week, and Roger McCreary was awesome for 2 weeks and then kind of regressed in week 3. And the cornerbacks in general, I think Deshaun Watson was like 19 of 21 when targeting receivers on Sunday. That's not going to win you games if teams can throw to their receivers and not have any issues.
Yeah, let's keep in with the defense, Nick. Titans got 3 sacks. They had some pressures and things like that. Early in the game, they certainly were getting there, and then less and less as the game went on. Maybe fatigue becomes a factor. You're always on the field. But personally, I've been underwhelmed to whelmed with this pass rush since the first half at New Orleans. Where do you think that is?
I've been trying to figure that out myself. I look at the pass rush, and the guys are correct in saying they're getting there. They got to Deshaun quite a few times. They couldn't bring him down, which tough to do. He's a good scrambler. But Arden Key hasn't been the guy he was in that first half. You're right. And Danico Autry and Harold Landry haven't really flashed other than a couple of plays here and there. I think Jeff Simmons has obviously been fantastic creating the pressure from the inside. But, yeah, they haven't had that kind of domineering pass rush you'd want, and especially not on first and second down. They've done a pretty good job of getting there on third down when they need to dial it up. But those early down pressures, I think Vrabel alluded to this yesterday, those early down pressures haven't been there as consistently, and that's allowing teams to get in rhythm. And I think the thing that was astounding about the Browns game is until that long pass to Amari Cooper at the end of the game, all those drives were methodical, and they weren't running the ball. Teams aren't running the ball methodically against the Titans, so it was methodical 5 to 10 yard chunks in the passing game. And if you can't force them to be incomplete with your secondary, and you can't force them to go backwards with your pass rush, that's why teams don't have to run the ball, is because both of your pass defense phases aren't really posing that much of a threat. And again, 3 games is a small sample. I know that they played against a Browns team with a really good offensive line and a Saints team with a pretty darn good offensive line as well. But it's the NFL. Most teams have good players, so you don't want to make that excuse too often.
Nick Suss from the Tennessean with us here on Robby and Rexrode. So, Nick, on the Titans offensive line side of things, how do you balance knowing, number one, that you're not going to be playing against Myles Garrett every week and he can't wreck the game against you like he did on Sunday, but also what we've seen from the offensive line through 3 games? Where do you think that is, and is any of this correctable in your mind, or is this just what the Titans offensive line is going to be moving forward, which is not very good, particularly against pass blocking?
So I was much more concerned in the Cleveland game about the run blocking than the pass blocking.
Agreed.
Because the pass blocking kind of is what it is, and it wasn't terrible the first 2 weeks, but there were kind of notes of, if you're going against Myles Garrett, things might go badly. The run blocking, Derrick Henry had 20 rushing yards on Sunday, and he had 32 yards after contact. That's pretty much all you need to say, is that the dude was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage so often that he had almost twice as many yards after contact than he did actual net yards. And that was really what surprised me, because, look, the Titans offensive line is going to give up some sacks here and there, and I'm not saying that's okay, but you kind of make that trade-off because these dudes are getting off and they're creating these holes for Henry and for Tajay Spears, and you're fixing things there. But they couldn't establish either, and that's where I was concerned, is that I don't know if you fault one guy. I don't know if this all falls on Dillard, but the right side of the offensive line, I think you were averaging 2.3 yards per carry running right on Sunday, so it's not like you were doing that much better going that way. That's what I was really wanting to see get better going into week 4, because, look, you're right. You're not going to play Myles Garrett that often, and dude had the kind of game that makes you think, maybe he's the defensive player of the year this year. Okay, he beat us. But going from there, you can't let every team turn the game into that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. I guess I'm not as down on Dillard as some people, just because it's just an impossible matchup, and I think he should have had help more than he had help in that game. But I do still come away, Nick, wondering, is there any talk, is there any possibility of, moving things around? I mean, at some point. I think Vrabel made it clear it's not happening this week. But Nicholas Petit-Frere comes back. You do have Skoronski coming back at some point, and I still think it would be interesting to see him out there at left tackle. what's your sense for that? Do you think we're going to see that? Do you think, last year Dennis Daly got tried out there week after week, even though he was struggling. But of course, they didn't have the same options. I don't think that they do have this year.
The Skoronski thing is interesting to me because you've been out there as much as I have, Joe. He didn't practice it. Like, he's been here since May or late April or whatever it was, and he had a couple of reps at left tackle in rookie camp, and since then he's essentially been a guard. And I have little to no doubt that if he played left tackle, he'd be good at it. He's a very good blocker. That's his whole thing, is that he's as technically sound as anybody who was in the draft, probably more technically sound than anybody in the draft. And he was a great left tackle in college, and he was a great left tackle in high school, and those skills are transferable. But this is the NFL, and throwing a guy at a position he just hasn't practiced because somebody else is struggling, that's tough. And then you risk his confidence, and you risk all of the momentum he's had progressing, and it makes it really tricky. So I don't know, when Petit Frere comes back and when Skoronski comes back, and as Radens continues to kind of progress back and keep getting healthier and healthier after the ACL, I think that a lot changes. I think that a lot of these roles end up being up for grabs, but I just really don't know how you get Skoronski to a place where he can be anything other than a guard this year.
Nick, how do you view what you've seen from Treylon Burks through 3 games? I mean, obviously against the Chargers, he makes the play of the game. It's a 70-yarder. It changes the game, and the Titans' offense takes off after that. Outside of that one play, there really hasn't been much from Burks to this point. What are you seeing from Burks through 3 games so far?
It's really tough to figure out. You're right. I'm struggling to see how this guy who looked so good for the entire offseason is making such a little difference in these games if the injury is not involved. And he insists the injury is not a factor anymore, and you have to take him at his face value, take him at his word. If you're taking him at his word, he was targeted 6 times. He caught 1 pass on Sunday, and 2 or 3 of those passes that he didn't catch were probably pretty catchable. I struggle to think that it's all related to scheme. I struggle to think that it's all related to the coverage doing well or Tannehill missing him. I mean, some of these balls are right where you'd want them to be. So he's a guy that really needs to step up, because it's strange to say after the big ballyhoo we made about it all off season, I think the rest of the receivers on this team are playing as well or better than I expected. D-Hop's been about as good as I thought he'd be. Chris Moore's been better than advertised. Nick Westbrook-Akina has been consistent. I think that this receiving core, if Treylon plays up to the potential we all saw from him this offseason, has the potential to be, not a liability, which was the big question mark the entire offseason. We're spending months and months talking about, is this receiving core going to be good enough to compete in the NFL? The rest of the guys seem like they're doing their roles pretty well. So, yeah, Treylon's a guy that I don't have doubt that he's going to figure it out, but these first 3 weeks haven't been the most stellar.
Taking it outside, taking it to the AFC South at large, because we asked this question, Nick. Just love to get your thoughts on which team /fan base should be more worried, Titans or Jaguars right now?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I think that the Jags probably – the worry's a little bit more surprising, might be a little bit more visceral. So it's probably the Jags coming off of a couple of rough offensive showings. The entire AFC South is in a position where, as usual, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't necessarily buy the Colts being this good this early. Maybe they are. CJ Stroud, he's looking really good. I mean, he's looking like a quarterback that deserved to go in the top 2, and that's not a surprise either. He's a good quarterback, but did we think he'd be this good this early? Of course not. Where's this coming from, especially with a supporting cast that people were down on? Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence has been really mediocre this year, which is not supposed to be what a quarterback in year 3 does after he was so good in year 2 and then gets Calvin Ridley. And then obviously we can talk about the Titans' shortcomings all we want, but it's a tough thing to get a read on this division, especially when the Titans haven't played any of them yet. And gosh, when's the first game? Week 5 against the Colts. Yep. Maybe we'll be able to tell a little bit better week and a half from now, having seen the Titans interact with the division. But right now, yeah, Jacksonville is one of the biggest surprises in the NFL, regardless of this division, anywhere.
Well, Nick, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate you taking time to join us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.
Nick Suss from the Tennessean, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Nick had to say. Take your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3, The Game.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch? Every day, from lunch to late night. Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks is always adding exciting cocktails to the menu, like the expertly balanced Sincoro Hall of Fame Margarita. Try it at your local lodge today.
We pride ourselves on being transparent, opening up the books, and sharing all the secrets of the diamond industry. We have a passion for this, and part of having a passion is sharing that passion.
Genesis Diamonds Vice President David Cooper says, at Genesis, you don't just get an entry-level course in diamonds, you get a PhD.
We love educating our customers, even over-educating our customers about diamonds and gemstones, so they can truly see the difference in what we offer.
At Genesis, diamonds are not a side business. It's their only business.
We eat, breathe, and sleep diamonds.
So whether you end up buying at Genesis or not, come for the education.
The better educated we can make you at Genesis Diamonds, the better a shopper you're going to be, whether you shop with us or anyone else. You will be able to tell the difference and know what you are buying, so you make the best decision for you.
Genesis Diamonds, proud to offer one of the largest selections of GIA-certified diamonds in the nation, with no middleman markups, no retail pricing games, no commission salespeople, and no nonsense. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Blue Raider fans, your home for all the MTSU football and men's basketball action is on 93.3 Classic Hits and 95.1 Classic Hits in the borough. Catch the action all season long with Chip Walters on the call. Go Blue Raiders!
The Nashville Oktoberfest is quickly approaching, and now's the time to get your dirndls, Lederhosen, and Party Steins ready. From local breweries to live music and festival artisans, you can't go wrong celebrating this free family fun Germantown tradition. The Nashville Oktoberfest 2023, Thursday, October 5th through the 8th at Bicentennial Mall in Germantown. Prepare yourself for 4 days of brats, beer, live music, and competitions. VIP experience reservations are still available at thenashvilleoktoberfest.com. Prost, y'all!
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Robby and Rexrode podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Good morning. You're locked into Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty.
I had the radio on. I was listening to
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, helping home buyers and sellers in Middle Tennessee for 20 years. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, live from our 102.5 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I got some tickets to give away, a 4-pack of tickets to the C10 Nationals at Nashville Super Speedway coming up this Friday and Saturday. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Caller number 3 will win a 4-pack of tickets to the C10 Nationals at Nashville Super Speedway this Friday and Saturday. 615-737-1025. Thanks to Nick Suss for being with us in the last segment. Indy Ben on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, try telling you guys, there's a decent chance the Titans' offensive line wouldn't be any better than last offseason, especially when you have backups all over the line, except at left guard. I smell another first-round tackle in the draft next year. It's from Indy Ben on the text line.
Is Indy Ben more of a Colts fan or an anti-Titans fan?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Would you rather the Titans lose or the Colts win, Indy Ben?
I'd love to know the answer. Like my dad, big Alabama guy, way more of a Tennessee losing guy, like for sure. Like, I mean, he cares if Alabama wins or loses, but it's really like if Tennessee loses.
He just wants the Vols to be in misery.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's basically what he cares about.
I like that.
Which is fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
I always enjoy that. Really doesn't get annoying ever.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure you've handled that well over the years.
Sure.
Because
Sure
he hasn't had many opportunities.
Yeah, not a whole lot of losing has happened.
Enjoy that.
No heartbreak whatsoever. Chris on the text line says, do you guys think D-Hop has really been that much better than expected? This is from Chris on the text line. My answer, Joe, and I got back to Chris on this, I think he's been about exactly what I thought he would be. Like, I think he's been good. I think he's made some plays. You know, the catch that he made on Sunday on the sideline, great catch. I mean, classic DeAndre Hopkins catch there. I think he's been good. I think, he's dealing with the ankle injury, so that's been the problem from him. He hadn't been able to practice much of the last 2 weeks. 4 catches, 40 yards against the Chargers a couple weeks ago. And look, the Titans didn't do anything in the passing game, but the 2 plays that they made down the field, one was to him, the other was to Chris Moore. So I don't know that he's been better than expected, but I think he's been good. Like, DeAndre Hopkins has been fine.
Yeah. I'd say he's been right around in line with what I thought he'd be. I guess where I would say better than expected is that I absolutely thought this might turn into a Julio situation with constant injuries, and I know it's early in the season. Right now, he's been available. He's been, practice, camp, and now he's fighting through the ankle injury and playing a game. So that is, if that continues, then it will be beyond expectations.
Trevor on the text line says, how about that S2 score with C.J. Stroud now? What do you think of that?
Yeah, well.
He looks good.
This kind of goes to I saw a lot of S2 stuff over the weekend with Stroud's big game. It kind of goes to emotion in a football game. It's a factor. I mean, those tests can be valuable. They are not the absolute be-all, end-all of everything. Also, it was one game, And look, the Jags have some issues.
They do.
They can't rush the quarterback.
Hey,
it's not a good thing.
Titans tried to trade up and get C.J. Stroud. Just didn't quite work out for him.
Hey, maybe Stroud's the guy. Maybe he's going to end up being the one who's great out of this crew. I mean, who knows?
Could be.
But yes, the S2 score. There's going to be some good ones and bad ones. And also remember, with the S2 score with Stroud, it's pretty clearly communicated, as much as it could be communicated, that he had a really bad score on a day where he didn't want to take the test and he was flustered and upset and whatever, and it took it again and he had a much better score.
Coy from Clarksville on the text line, honorary member of the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League, says, if we don't improve by the trade deadline, don't be surprised if we're a big-time seller. Rand comes from the 49ers, who sold the farm for Trey Lance. Maybe we get a firepower with draft picks and get a quarterback, then spend $100 million in free agency on an offensive lineman. Now, just for clarification, they did not sell the farm for Trey Lance. They gave up the farm to go get Trey Lance.
Yeah.
They gave up multiple first-round picks.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, if the Titans go totally the wrong way, then I think some trading deadline moves could happen. Yeah, it's like we were talking earlier. Who were you talking about who's like half in, half out as a
Minnesota?
The problem with just about all these teams, and look at the Titans, like it's very hard to find a team that can go all the way rebuild. And the Titans have Jeff Simmons in his prime right now making a huge number, and that's not going to change, So, there's always urgency to get back quickly. And usually in the NFL, you can get back quickly to being a 9-win team in this league. It's designed for you to quickly do that. The question is, I mean, it really comes down to, are you trying to you're so bad you change quarterbacks, go with a young guy and tolerate, 3-4 wins and get really high in the draft and try to get a Marvin Harrison Jr. or something like that? I mean, that's one thing. But if not, then, basically I don't think it's going to be a quote-unquote full-on rebuild. I think it's going to be a quarterback change, and there is a lot of cap space. That's right, I said cap space for the Titans this offseason, and they can do something with that. But maybe the Tannehill thing is the thing we talked about earlier. I mean, I'm not ruling that out. If the Jets are, just clearly Zach Wilson's awful, clearly the rest of the team's really good, and a Tannehill or a Cousins could come in and at least get that team to the playoffs.
Problem with that is, and I hear you, I'm with you, but the problem with that is, I feel like that's got to happen soon. Like the Jets are on a clock here.
Well, that's true. They may be in their own misery too much by the deadline.
They're 1-2. Now, granted, they do have the Broncos coming up in a couple of weeks, and, Zach Wilson may put up 30 in that game because, they just gave up a 70 spot. But they got Kansas City this Sunday. And I can't imagine that game going well for the Jets based on what we've seen with Zach Wilson at quarterback and the way that Kansas City defense is playing. You got the Broncos after that, the Eagles after that. I mean, you very well could be in a situation 3 weeks from now where the Jets are maybe at best, 2-4, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, like, if you're going to make a move, I feel like the time for that to happen is fastly approaching for the Jets.
And so then if we talk about Tannehill, then it's not happening. I mean, the Titans right
That's
now.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like
now, maybe the Vikings
could be a little different.
I mean, if don't they in another 0-3 versus 0-3 game this week? Another winless game? I think they are.
They could be,
but it's against a team that could absolutely beat them. I mean, if they get to 0-4,
I mean, if they get to 0-4,
you really start to see that materialize as a possibility.
Vikings, Panthers on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably win, but what if they don't?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're doing in terms of their approach to it. Because that's the other thing. They have Justin Jefferson before they're paying Justin Jefferson. Like, they're getting ready to have to spend a ton of money on him. So what does that look like as they move forward? I don't know. Jason in Dover on the text line. With the horrendous offensive line, how can we evaluate any skill players? And taking that to the Burks
I think
discussion.
there's some truth to that.
I mean, I agree. Now, having said, like, Burks dropped 2 balls on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one over the middle where, Ward gets his hand in there late, but, Burks has got position on him. You got to come down with it. And then there's one late in the game when the game's already over, and you say, who cares? The game's already over. But, you're still out there playing. You're on the sideline, and the ball hits him right in the hands, and he just can't come down with it. Like, he's made one play this year. That's it. And it was a great play. It's a hugely important play that Treylon Burks made in the Chargers game. But that's it. That's all he's done so far this year, which is concerning to me.
Right. And so I agree. Like, for example, I'm not evaluating either back Sunday. That's
no
a
chance.
Great stat from Nick Suss, the more yards after contact than yards. So they had no chance. In 2 of these 3 games, the offensive line has held up enough for Tannehill to throw passes and, they've made plays or not made plays. He missed passes in the first week. He hit just about everything in the second week, so it's not like it's all. Let's remember this Browns defense. Vrabel said this yesterday. He said Browns and Saints. I think in particular with the Browns. Let's remember that Joe Burrow had 82 yards passing against that defense too. He also could not set up, could not do anything.
They're very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think they could be a special defense, but a week ago I thought the Cowboys were the 85 Bears, so who knows? We'll see.
615-737-1025. Continuing the conversation on the Titans, getting back to the question of the day. Who should be more worried right now, Titans fans or Jags fans? Take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3, The Game.
Hey, guys. It's Mike from Newton Nissan in Gallatin. You know what time of year it almost is? Spooky season. But we're not about scaring your kids. We want them to have an amazing Halloween experience. That's why we host one of the largest trunk or treats in Middle Tennessee each and every year. And this year, we're back to hosting it in person, not as a drive-through anymore. Get ready with your best costumes and walking shoes because on October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m., we'll have 2 hours of trunk-or-treating, contests, pizza, and of course, a whole lot of candy. We can't wait to have fun on Sunday afternoon with you, rain or shine. Mark your calendars for October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. at Newton Nissan, 1461 Nashville Pike in Gallatin. That's October 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. Follow us on Facebook to stay up to date. And don't forget our website, newtonnissan.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine. Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
A lot of schools talk about training the cybersecurity workforce of the future, but do they really deliver? My Computer Career has been supplying the IT workforce with thousands of skilled, certified pros for 15 years. Train with the experts in support, networking, or cybersecurity and start your career in months, not years. Upskill even faster. On campus or live online, qualified students may get financial aid, including the GI Bill. My Computer Career. Accredited, acclaimed, effective. Take the free career evaluation at mycomputercareer.edu.
Some people just know the perfect time to hit the concession stand. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate.
Woo! Nice! I never miss a touchdown. Want a bite?
Yeah, he knows he's got a sixth sense for a snack break. Just like he knows that switching to Allstate can save drivers $468.
Saving $468 is based on the national average annual savings for new auto customers surveyed in 2022 who switched to Allstate. Prices may vary based on how you buy. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Insightful discussion.
When we talk about the person that these players are.
3 goals scored in the first 5 minutes.
He wants to be the starter, day one.
Mixed with spirited debate.
Okay, but
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
We got the whole thing covered. We got it all covered.
Here.
Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, I'm Gary Smith, head coach of Nashville SC. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts. 615-737-1025, our phone line. 615-737-1025, our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Matt from Camden on the text line, answering the question of the day, Joe. Says Jags fans should be more worried. They had all the expectations on him this offseason, and the national media anointed Trevor Lawrence as a top 5 QB. Outside of Nashville, the Titans had no expectations. That's from Matt from Camden on the text line.
Yeah, we addressed that earlier. That's really not what we're asking. I mean, if we're asking who's a bigger disappointment right now, it's easily the Jaguars because, as you said, they have the expectation. But I mean, we're talking about who should be more worried about performance moving forward. So the expectations aren't a factor. It's just
who do we think can dig their way out of this?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think both you and I would give that edge to the Titans in terms of who should be more worried. I mean, the offensive line scares the crap out of me if I'm a Titans fan moving forward. And quite frankly, like the defense, who we think is a strength of this team, they've been that at moments so far this year. But, I mean, they were bad Sunday. Bad against a Browns team that hasn't been that good offensively. And they looked really good offensively against the Titans. And, look, I know, we've already got some of it today on the text line. And, like I said, we'll break down the Bengals in more detail as the week goes on here. I know that offense has struggled. And they struggled again last night. And they figured some things out in the second half. I mean, Burrow didn't throw a touchdown pass in that game. But isn't this, like, if you're a Titans fan – knowing what you just saw last week against Cleveland and Deshaun Watson finally figuring things out against your defense, I mean, doesn't that scare the crap out of you with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins coming in? It worries me. I know that. And I know Burrow's hurt, and I don't know how limited he's going to be because of that calf. But I still look at that Cincinnati offense, Joe Mixon, and what he does in the backfield. Like, if the Titans' defense isn't on their game, that offense could put up a number on Sunday at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, I have to agree. Look, I was very underwhelmed watching the Bengals last night for most of the night, and I do think it's a good thing for the Titans that that Joe Burrow has this calf injury, can't move. They were very ineffective much of the night, but to your point, I mean, the Browns have also been very ineffective, and then all of a sudden magically found effectiveness against the Titans secondary. So, yeah, it's a concern, and if you want to flip it around, Trey Hendrickson had a couple sacks last night. He's not Myles Garrett, but he's awfully good. Yep. And so there's another. I think they have 5 sacks. of Stafford. They were well into the teens in pressures. So it's another team that can get after the passer. I mean, look at this game. Think back to the 9-sack game against Burrow. That's the type of game that this Titans pass rush has to have to win the game. They have to cave in the pocket.
I realize not everybody's Myles Garrett, but at this point with the Titans' offensive line, I mean, the better question is probably which teams are not going to be able to get after the passer, right? I mean, that's where we are.
The Jags look like one right now.
Yeah, they may not be. Yeah, they may not be able to.
That's one of their big concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a text that says the Titans have more to worry about. The Jags have a team that has building blocks, and you feel like they can make it click anytime with Trevor Lawrence. Titans are looking like they're doom and gloom. Got another text that says the Titans are more worried. The offensive line, a disaster 2 years in a row. We'll be drafting another offensive lineman with our first round draft pick again. This is from an unnamed texter on the text line.
Just keep doing it, man. Just keep doing it. You'll hit on something. I think they got a good one in Skoronski. I will say. The other thing with the Jags, if anybody hasn't seen the Andrew Beck kickoff return, which, by the way, the first fullback to return a kickoff for a touchdown since Derek Wimbush of the Jags 18 years ago.
Sure.
I mean, that was like the classic. They get it to 17-10 the third, so they finally score a freaking touchdown at home in their 7th quarter of football at home this year. But they make it, you're like, okay, they're going to come back and win. It's 17-10. And then, Beck drops the ball. And so then everybody comes away and somehow he picks it up and it's like Tecmo Bowl, Bo Jackson or something.
Yeah.
The tacklers are just flying off him and he goes all the way. It's just a fluky, weird play. Terrible by the Jags because 4 or 5 guys should tackle. But I'm just saying, there's an example of a play that I think kind of killed them in that game. They were not able to come back from that. And it's just kind of fluky.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with the Jags. Don't get me wrong. And Michael Duraco of ESPN here's a stat from him. The last 3 quarterbacks the Jags beat in the regular season: Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, and Joshua Dobbs.
Yes.
Shout out Joshua Dobbs, by the way, just beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, he did.
But there's they are not a perfect football team. And as I mentioned with the pass rush. And they really, right now, they have none. Travon Walker's not doing anything. They're not getting after the quarterback. Their offensive line's not great. They're 30% on third down. So they have plenty of concerns. But I agree with the texter in that I still think that there's more that you can see coming together for them. And I'm more concerned about the Titans, starting with the offensive line.
Let me ask you a question. What's more embarrassing, giving up a touchdown return to a fullback on a kickoff like the Jags did on Sunday, or back in 2010, the Packers gave up a 71-yard kickoff return by Dan Connolly of the Patriots, who was an offensive lineman. Did not score a touchdown on the play, but he did get down to like the 9-yard line. So what's more embarrassing, a 71-yard kickoff return by an offensive lineman on a squib kick or a touchdown by a fullback yesterday?
Oh, the offensive lineman. Because the Beck guy, I mean, he can run.
He can run.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
he looked good.
I mean, he turned it on, man. He turned on the burners. Yeah, an offensive lineman, 71 yards. That is quite embarrassing. Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, look, the Jags, we talked about their offensive performance. I mean, they've got Ridley. They've got Etienne. They've got Kirk. They got they got a lot of guys offensively, and they've been terrible on offense the last 2 weeks. I mean, I thought they actually looked, offensively, Calvin Ridley looked great in week 1 against Indy, and I was like, well, here they go. Calvin Ridley's about to take off and have, a 1,500-yard season for the Jags. And ever since then, I mean, they got nothing done against Kansas City. And last week against Houston, I mean, it was embarrassing offensively what they were able to do. By the way, they gave up 37 to the Texans as well. I know one of them was the kickoff return that we're talking about. They play Atlanta on Sunday. I'm just saying, like, if they look bad on offense again on Sunday against a defense that I think is okay in Atlanta, but it's certainly not, one of the upper echelon defenses in the league. If they can't get anything done again offensively Sunday, like, that's pretty concerning to me if I'm a Jacksonville fan, given all of the talent that you feel like they have on paper, which I think everybody would agree Jacksonville is more talented offensively than the Titans are on paper.
No question. Gigantic game against the Falcons. Gigantic game because the way the Bills are looking right now, that's going to be a tough one. 2 straight weeks in London. So, I mean, this is a huge game. You mentioned Ridley, 8 for 101 in the touchdown. Like you said, there he is. He's got 5 catches for 72 yards in the last 2 games and has dropped some big throws too. So, again, I think Calvin Ridley, what we saw in the first week, I think you're going to see some more weeks with that. he's talented.
Yep.
They have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. So I think ultimately, like, they're going to be a better offensive team. I can't imagine they won't. I do feel like they're, like, average at best defensive team.
Caleb in Gallatin on the text line says, if I remember correctly, when we had that historically bad defense, Kevin Byard talked about how the communication was an issue that year, and it seems like that's a problem again this year. How is it that we're backtracking in that area again? This is from Caleb from Gallatin on the text line. I mean, the communication part of it, Joe, really the one thing that stands out to me there is whatever happened with Christian Fulton in the game Sunday on the touchdown by Amari Cooper where, Vrabel talked about it yesterday. They were in quarters. Obviously, Christian Fulton didn't think they were in quarters. At least I hope not, because if he did,
no, he stopped.
Rough, yeah.
He passed him off to Hooker, and Hooker's like, no, man, you have that quarter of the field deep, so there's that easy touchdown for them.
Yes.
So, and Vrabel was willing to tell everybody that at the press conference yesterday, which
is unusual.
Yeah, it's not too common.
I don't know that communication is some glaring issue with the Titans defense. It's going to happen at times, but Byard did talk about that a couple years ago. Now look, the defense has not lived up to expectations through 3 weeks. I don't think there's any question about that. It's a far cry from that defense in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, communication that year, sure. Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know. I don't even remember that year some huge communication issue. I'm sure it was talked about because when you're struggling that much, you talk about everything. I mean, that team could not come close to an opposing quarterback ever.
I mean, the communication was, hey, guys, it's third down. We're going to give up this 20-yard pass here. That's what we're going to do.
Exactly. I mean, Jonathan Joseph's in coverage, and Vic Beasley's rushing the passer. That's the issue
Allegedly.
That defense had. Yeah. I mean, he did dress. He put on shoulder pads.
Josh in Kentucky says the Titans are going to get eaten up this week by that Bengals defense. It's going to be fun to watch my Bengals smack them around. I can see a 27-11 type score, and Bengals will have at least 4 sacks. This is from Josh in Kentucky on the text line.
I'm with you on the sacks. I mean, this week is, if there's ever a, put your hand in the dirt, or I'm sorry, in the turf, in the coconut droppings.
Yes.
And fire off the ball.
A beautiful visual.
Thank you. Fire off the ball and run it. If there was ever a week the Titans need to prove that they can actually still run the football, this is the week.
Well, and Nick Suss brought that up. I mean, obviously they got totally stomped in the run blocking part of this against Cleveland. How much better will that be against Cincinnati? It's going to be hard to be worse. So how much better will that be against Cincinnati, where Derrick Henry's not getting hit every time he gets the ball handed off to him from Tannehill immediately as the ball's making contact with him? I mean, the stat, Suss brought up Derrick Henry with 20 yards rushing, and he said 32 yards after contact. And it's pretty incredible. It's amazing how bad that was for the Titans on Sunday. And I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. That, to me, is far more concerning than the pass blocking. There's a certain level of expectation I have with this offensive line from a pass blocking standpoint. It's not good. We know it's not a good pass blocking offensive line. If coupled with that, all of a sudden you can't block in the running game, then you're just totally screwed offensively. You can't do anything.
Yeah, no, without question. And that's been pretty good in 2 weeks. So, again, you need to hope that a few weeks from now we look back and say, my goodness, those Cleveland Browns are just – but I mean, Tomlinson, they got a lot of guys up there for sure. It's still very sobering, disappointing performance, but you just got to get back to it. I mean, if you can't do it, if you can't figure out running the football, then it's going to be a more unwatchable offense than last year, which is hard to imagine, but it will be.
But we talked about this after week 1, right? Now, week 1 was different because it was more about the quarterback and him responding against the Chargers. But Vrabel said it yesterday. We talk about the culture all the time, but don't you, deep down, kind of expect the Titans to go out and play pretty well on Sunday? I don't know if they're going to win, but, this is what they do. They play really bad one week, and then when you feel like everything's lost with them, they come out and they bring out a good performance. Now, last year, look, they went on a 7-game losing streak. Now, they had some performances in there that were good given what they had available to them on the roster at the time, and it wasn't good enough to win. And maybe that's the case again on Sunday. But I feel like what we will see Sunday will be a good bounce-back performance from the Titans. I just don't know whether or not that's going to be good enough to win against this Cincinnati team.
Right. I think they'll be in a good football game with the Bengals, but they need to at some point beat the Bengals in a good football game. They have a habit of losing good football games at home to the Bengals.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More on the Titans coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Are you always on the go? We've got you covered. Download the Game Nashville app from your app store and listen to us wherever you are.
Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode. It's Chase McCabe.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mays.
Stomach Company.
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
Good station. I listen to it all the time.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We gather together in communities across the nation to remember and honor, to celebrate and support, to light the night. We are LLS, and when we walk, cancer runs. Find your local event at lightthenight.org.
Actor portrayal, based on a real patient experience.
I'm Mike. I'm a husband, proud father of 2, work my butt off 6 days a week, some nights too. When my family or my company needs me to make it happen, I make it happen. But a few months ago, I started having trouble making it happen, in the bedroom. I tried some pills online, but they didn't work. Honestly, I thought about throwing in the towel on my sex life, but I'm not that old. I still want to enjoy intimacy with my wife. Like that poet said, I don't want to just go gently into that good night. So I went to the Tennessee Men's Clinic in Franklin. Got some lab work done, was prescribed some meds, and wow, it made it happen. I can't say enough about them. Their providers took care of me, followed up, and made sure I had a treatment plan that actually works. It's awesome. If I were you, and you're like me, I'd give them a call today, 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. If you're like most guys, they'll make it happen for you too.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra. Results vary.
At the Home Depot, Saturdays are about 2 things. Getting projects done right with Behr Premium Plus interior paint and football. That's right, Kirk Herbstreit. And with Behr's wall-to-wall coverage and long-lasting durable finish, you'll spend less time worrying about your walls, which means more time for football. For football. Upgrade your Saturday with Behr and the Home Depot. How doers get more done. At the Home Depot, Saturdays are about 2 things. The one-of-a-kind wood-fired flavor of a Traeger Ironwood XL grill. And football. That's right, Desmond Howard. Get fired up for the game in just a tap with Traeger's intuitive touchscreen. Then throw on your favorites and monitor the grill from anywhere with Wi-Fi technology. So you spend less time staring at the grill, which means more time for football. For football. Upgrade your Saturday with Traeger and the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards! Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app. You're locked into Robby and Rexrode.
Every morning, first thing.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025, our phone number.
Jared's still texting about the cap. Jared went to cry about the cap. The cap. Oh, my gosh. I can't even do a fake cry because my voice is so hoarse.
Is that going to be part of his show today at 2 o'clock and get more into the cap?
Hopefully.
I don't know.
It's 4 hours on the cap, Jared. 4 hours on how the cap is fake. I'm sure he has nothing else to say today.
I'm sure it'll be real quiet from him coming up at 2 o'clock. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Daniel. Daniel, good morning. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate what you guys do, and I appreciate the wonderful insights you've given. I want to talk about the Titans real quick, and, I've been watching them play for years now. We all know what comes with that. But this particular year, all these fans are really upset about what's going on. But I want to take a step back and ask them, what did they think was going to happen? I really feel like with the way the roster is constructed, you had a team that was going to win somewhere between 6 to 8 games, and then D-Hop comes to town, and all of a sudden some expectations get a little bit higher. But the reality is we don't have guys that can win the one-on-one matchups, which is what NFL football is about. You got to beat the guy in front of you more times than not, and we can't do that, especially on the offensive line. So, I'm just asking fans to maybe come back to earth here a little bit and understand that this is what this team was going to be no matter what anyway. And it's just a team that is slightly below average. And if we can get to 7, 8 games, that's great. And the thing that is the worst thing about it is you just kind of hope like the Jags or somebody would run away with the division. So, maybe we could hopefully have like a good pick or something like that. But there were going to be, 6, 7 wins, picking 10, 11, 12, somewhere around in there. So, just telling fans this team is what it is. It's just not a good football team. So thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. I mean, that's a lot of what we talked about in the offseason, Joe, which is, number one, how good is this team going to be? And look, we still don't know, right? I mean, we're 3 weeks in.
3 games.
They beat the Chargers, who I still think the Chargers are a talented football team. I don't know if they're a good football team, but they're a talented football team. And we'll see how they respond on Sunday against Cincinnati. But, a lot of what Daniel was talking about there was what we talked about in the offseason from the fan base, which is, well, are you good or are you not? Get out of the middle is basically what a lot of the Titans fans are screaming about right now.
Well, he just said hopefully they can get to 7, 8 wins. To me, that's exactly what you don't want, to be still not with a great pick but not make the playoffs. I mean, it's kind of like the Preds conversation,
Yeah.
The dreaded middle. So, but I mean, I agree with. I think there's a lot of matchups that they can't win with their offensive line, and right now with their secondary, that's been a big disappointment. That's another thing. They need to run the ball this week, but also it's a big week for the secondary. They can play better than that. Now, maybe it won't look that way against these receivers. Not the ideal matchup for a bounce back week for the secondary, but
that's the thing.
They were just inexcusably bad last week.
They were. They were terrible, and some of it's penalties too. Quit taking penalties. Christian Fulton, tackling somebody from behind when you're getting torched out there, and then you look across and it's T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd coming this week. And oh, good. That's maybe not the most ideal scenario to set yourself up for if you're the secondary to have a bounce back game. I look at this team right now, Joe, and I don't know that. I'm not ready to punt on the season. I know a lot of Titans fans are freaking out based on what they saw on Sunday. They're going to be better offensively, significantly better than what we saw on Sunday. Sunday is, I hope, worst case scenario for this Titans offensively. I expect them to go out and move the ball on Sunday. I don't know if they'll get into the 20s or not. We'll see what happens. Cincinnati does have a pretty good defense. But I still think, we talked about it earlier in the show, if you can find a way, somehow in the next 3 games, if you can win 2 of them, whether that's Sunday against Cincinnati or if it's in London against Baltimore, the Colts game is going to be huge. If you can find a way to be 3-3 at the bye week, then I think you're going to give yourself a shot in the second half of the season. After that break, with the schedule being what it is, you're going to give yourself a shot. It's a tall task. Right now, would I guess that they're going to be 3-3 at the bye week? Probably not. My guess is probably 2-4. But even that's not total disaster based on the way the schedule plays out for the Titans in the second half of the year.
I mean, you have to win the Colts game.
Yes.
I'll say that. I don't care what happens this Sunday. The Colts game is a must-win.
Absolutely.
And then, it would be a big deal to find a win in one of the other two. And then just the way things set up, you're fine. While acknowledging that, even already the rest of the schedule looks a little different. Pittsburgh, I think, looks a little better than I thought. Miami looks ridiculous, for example. And the Falcons coming in here, Arthur Smith, with that sweet mustache. I don't sleep on them. I know they lost to the Lions, which should mean
hopefully
he's relegated to the USFL, but they're not bad.
Hopefully he's gotten rid of that thing by the time they come in here.
It's a little bit disconcerting. It's an interesting choice by him.
I was watching the Packers-Falcons game, and Arthur Smith had the mustache and the sleeve cut-off hoodie. I was like, what's going on out here?
Right.
Because It's like a hybrid Belichick.
Is he
out there.
auditioning for the sequel to Over the Top or something like that?
It's just like this is an interesting look from old Art out there. Friend of the show, by the way.
That's right. That's right. Who enjoyed coming on the show and making fun of Kaharski.
He did.
But the schedule is, I still think overall, should be, if you play well, manageable. So 3-3 is a good goal, and it's an attainable goal. I think this is, you said it earlier, and I agree with you. I mean, this to me is the toughest of the three because Burrow is Burrow. They haven't looked like it. He hasn't looked like it a lot, but he finds a way, and he seems to find a way late in these games against the Titans to make that one or two throws that will make the difference. And so is there a moral victory to be had this week? Probably not. But you know what? After the way they played last week, if they look like a competent professional football team and lose a close game, I mean, frankly, I still would feel better about this team moving forward than after this last stinker.
I'm just rooting for the scenario that you threw out there yesterday of when we finally get around to Sunday and pregame intros are being tossed out there. Let's give the kicker and the specialist a little bit of love. Nick Folk running out of the tunnel. A little Ryan Stonehouse.
We got our North End Zone security team.
Guy selling peanuts in the third row over here.
Up in the press box, Jimmy White with the Bridges report.
Cameron on the text line says, this team's ceiling is incredibly low. Every game going forward is a must-lose. Lose all of them. The tank is in. I don't think we've reached that yet.
I think Vrabel would embrace that. I think Vrabel's into that.
Vrabel, if you could finish this season out losing every one of your games and you could have a 7-game losing streak to end last season, you could win one in the beginning part this year and then lose all of them, that'd be good.
Yeah.
What would that be? I mean, you'd be losing like 23 out of 24. That'd go well for him.
Yeah, no, that'd speak well of your NFL coaching existence. Chris says, Joe, you let Robby say bye week 3 times, didn't correct him off. I know.
I tried to see
He's
how many
worn
times I
me
could do
down. I'm so sick of it. He's worn me down, Chris. I'll get back on it tomorrow.
Try to see how many times I could do it. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Chasing Big Joe